I also got some
You're on.
neighboring town intel.
Good. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Finance for Monday, March 10th. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, there's no public comment, so we'll move.
Was the door open down
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. We'll roll right into Capitol.
All right.
We were expecting two more,
Who were you expecting?
John and
The
Stephanie.
capital, I invited the capital committee.
Oh, then we can wait.
Well, no, let's go. I don't wait.
No, we can wait.
Wait is a four-letter word,
No.
my world.
No, we can go to education, the Board of Ed model.
I know, I was gonna say.
But they're gonna, Stephanie wants to be here just for the Board of Ed capital piece, so.
That's fine, I mean, but
It's
Yeah,
okay,
but
well,
still,
we can start.
give them a chance to show up.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
and as soon as Marcia comes back, we could throw the Board of Ed thing up there and just start talking about it. It's to kill time. Or Naheed could tell us about our police.
Yeah, yes, I can do that.
Stephanie's
Are they here?
There's one here.
Stephanie's here and John should be here. People are still driving in.
Hello.
All right, then we'll go with you, or
Yes.
Ryan.
Go, go.
Ryan,
Okay, so let's throw it up. Well, I think, from last year, we just went through line by line, so I think that's fair to do that here. I'm gonna look at it. So, as we did this, I think we probably thought a little bit more about affordability than we did the prior year, just because I knew it was gonna be a tough year. So we didn't have a specific number we were trying to hit, but we just knew that it was gonna be a little tough. So we were pretty tough coming in. So if we go through, is there a way to show the department request?
Yes,
Because there'll be some things that, yeah, just add that column. Probably hide everything between there and the. Yeah, so then if you hide I, no, I on over,
I don't mind leaving, I mean, we can.
we have to see the kind of final number. of
I can
these.
make it smaller because I just tried to make it bigger too.
Yeah.
There we
Oh,
go.
There.
okay, can we see that?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so the first line is the money we've been putting away in the reval for the assessor, so, that now we're gonna spend, right? So,
Yep.
so that one is just, continuing on.
Yep.
Yeah, because there it is down below, right? So we've pulled that out and it's in line, so we'll spend that. We had to top up 40,000 to get to the number that we need. I think we had 160
Yep.
in the reserve. We gotta get it to 200. so
Yep.
we're good. Okay, hey, John, we just started.
hi.
Everybody knows John? So 3/4 of our capital committees here. The pre-referendum money for the community center, we put away 50,000 last year, put away another 50,000 this year, so I think that's what we need, right? So we're fully reserved for that amount. Then, so that takes you down to line 11, the IT things. So basically, the plotter, it's 10,000, it's for the land use kind of stuff, so it'll make them a lot more efficient there, that seemed pretty straightforward. For the IT upgrades, they wanted 20,000 to upgrade 2 rooms. Our general view is let's give them 10,000, see what they can get done with it, because I think the 20,000 would have been everything they needed, but I think if we give them 10,000, that they can probably get mostly everything done anyway, so it's a little bit of a challenging number for them, but let them see what they can do.
I'm okay with that project. I mean, that's for 209 and 133.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Is
near
there,
the
is
other
there
one.
any benefit of buying the equipment together? I mean,
Yeah,
you
it's
talked
not like
about both of
discounts or
them.
anything like that, no, not volume discounts.
I mean, sometimes if you bigger systems are
There can be, yeah, but
cheaper
it's,
volume.
yeah, just for 2 rooms it wasn't, I don't think.
That's only for 2 rooms, yeah. So we can look
And
at
there's some unique stuff in each. So the land use, they wanted Chromebooks for each of their commissioners, which will just make them much more effective. We agreed to that. The actual number they asked for in the backup was the 4460, so they put a contingency in it, we put the contingency out, they can have the number
But
back.
$1,200 contingency?
Oh, I think that was 18 instead. I think you brought it down to 50.
Because
Yeah.
that's how many
Okay.
commissioners
How many
there are.
computers is that?
It's 18, well, it's 18 going to 15. So
They
they're
wanna
not
take that.
overly expensive.
Plus like a charging cart or something for the.
Right, the charging cart's in there, exactly, that has to stay the one that there is. And then one that I wasn't, we pushed on this one a little bit, the fence around the community garden, so you know that there's the community garden up off 133, and it does need a new fence. The Lions Club runs it, and they get a little bit of money out of each of the people that have a plot in there. So I was pushing back that we should get the Lions Club to pay for it, or come out of the $50 fee or whatever. At the end of the day, we should still look at potentially trying to maybe charge the users a little bit, but that would come in revenue, it wouldn't come in as an offset to capital. So we kind of agreed, leave the capital in here, and we can decide if we want to try to recover some of that over the next couple of years by a little bit of a charge against the fee. Okay?
Someone said though, that gets pretty good participation.
It gets huge,
Oh, very
there's a wait,
much so,
there's a
yeah.
wait list.
So that's why 12, I don't see a
Yeah.
problem with that, because they get good persistence, they get,
I was,
a lot of
I
people use
had
it.
a plot.
yeah, that's
I
what
had
I'm saying.
visions of getting people garden. And then I had realized that children were not as helpful as I thought they would be.
And I heard last year what was happening was people were going in and just harvesting and
That's
taking the
what
stuff
they're
out.
worried about,
That's why
right,
they
yes.
It was, so
Yeah.
even the people that are putting the time in to grow,
They're not
weren't
getting
sowing
it.
the crops,
Right.
so.
Yeah, when I first was more of against it, I'm not a big fan of the town subsidizing specific charities or volunteer organizations. And I thought this was a Lions Club thing, but they're just administering it.
That's what-
It's really a
it's-
town
Yeah,
thing.
it's a
Yes,
town thing.
yes,
So
that's
what
why
got
it's-
me more comfortable.
Yeah, I feel the same way, it's a town thing,
Right,
yes,
Right.
yeah, I agree.
So that's the government, you can, and I don't know if it has the year to year, but that's actually down year to year. Police is fairly straightforward with one discussion probably. So I think they've been asking for this, last year they asked for this dispatch system, but they didn't really have it figured out. So now they have this dispatch system that they're asking for. They were looking at two, this is the more expensive one, but the more robust one. So they may come back and say we can live with the other one, which would be a little bit less, but we need this, we need to get it in place. They have done the proper vetting on it, so they weren't just 100% locked down on the decision of which to go for, but it was like 80% this way. So the money is in to support the more expensive.
That's the 322 line.
That's the 330.
332, I apologize, yes.
The next year, we're continuing on to replace 3 vehicles every year, so that, so that there's kind of 9 in good shape. That, the adjustment amount's just the estimate they got was a little bit higher than what was in the initial request, right? So we just adjusted it. They did ask for a second motorcycle. While it's reasonable, just given that we're making a big investment in the dispatch system, we said this is not the year to do that. So I think that will come in again next year, and I think that's a reasonable thing to go for. So I'd not be surprised if that.
It's a big hit on the system, I agree with that too, yes.
The radio and telephone equipment, very helpful, under 10,000, we let that go. And then the Westcott Range project is just not ready for prime time, right? So that one, they took off anyway, so we took it out because it was in, but it was.
It's a great concept.
Great concept.
What is it?
It's a rifle range that towns all over the place can use, and would probably be built in new towns. So that would be our part of the capital cost of the building. But it's premature, so I think by next year, this one will be, more vetted and be ready to be discussed.
Yeah.
But for you, I don't wanna take your stuff, when you were doing Parks and Rec stuff, John?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll keep going and then you jump in. So from the fire company, obviously continuing to fund the vehicle reserves. The selectmen, I don't remember the SCBA, with the SCBA bottle, that's the tanks, right? Bob?
Yes.
They didn't necessarily need any more. I think the new number said they needed additional to get it closed, so that's why the selectmen put in 12,000, new information, right?
We had funded that in their operating budget, and it seemed to get lost in their operating budget, and so going forward, we're gonna fund it in our budget, like all the other reserves, and they took it out of their budget, for us to put it in ours. That's what that is.
Right, okay.
So
So,
that's a reserve.
it's a reserve, right, but they probably will spend it this year, I think. Will want to spend it this year, if I remember
For the gas meters is this
right.
year.
The gas meters, absolutely this year, right? So gas meters are meters that detect, poisonous gas, et cetera. You can see, they asked for it down below, having a set of them so that anybody who's going into a emergency situation can make sure that there's not a gas problem. So we did decide to fund that, but you can see there was already a reserve that we didn't know about, so the 17,000 came out because we have the reserve.
Okay.
And by the way, as we asked them, we said, I know you prioritize these, but what's the most important that you really need? And they said the gas meters. So we kind of, it's not on the list that way, but we kicked that one up. It was above the extraction equipment and the tollable signs, so those came out just kind of affordability, they said they could probably live with those if they can get the gas meters. By the way, the gas meters also are shared with Candlewood as well, so it kind of helps both fire companies. Okay,
And what happened with the extraction equipment? Is that a no?
yeah, it was just, they could last another year without it, right, so we pulled that.
Is that for electric vehicles?
No, that's
No, that's your
Jaws of Life.
jaws of life,
Yeah.
it's like pulling people out of cars.
Right. Same with the number 5 was just a low probability item. From the ambulance, we've talked about this before, but, the numbers have moved around a little bit, but, with this 1 year, I thought we funded 135,000 more, I think that's correct, which has the full 540,000 funded. What we said as the capital committee is we support having the reserve for that. There's the EMS study going on, and so it has to be vetted and released to them, but we have the money now to get the ambulance, so.
They brought up something during our meeting that they gotta come back to you on. We'll approve this, but they gotta come back to you guys.
I got confused.
I got
They
very
threw,
confused.
yeah, all of us a curveball at the end.
What was that on?
I'm not even gonna talk about it
Is
today.
it more of
I
a
think
the 10-year plan, or is it on this specifically?
it's on their 10-year plan, but it was buying another one right away or something.
Because it takes 2 years to get.
Because
Oh,
it's
yeah, I was
yeah.
on to hear that they want to commit because it takes several
Yeah,
years.
that,
I don't know if this EMS study has been published yet, but I did some investigation myself, and there are multiple types of ambulances. At this price, it's built on a truck chassis,
yes.
right? And you can get ambulances built on van chassis,
Yeah.
basically, that are much cheaper and much shorter lead time. And there aren't, I don't know if the capability is that much different for a town like ours.
So the only thing I'll interject, just with my amount of knowledge there, is that the Sprinter van chassis that are much cheaper aren't as safe as the truck chassis. That's the only, in an accident situation, they
Right.
aren't as
That's
safe.
maybe a bit smaller, right? It must be a bit smaller.
They're like new vans has
Yeah.
sprinters.
Well,
because
I think
they are
there's something in between though. I
Yeah,
think there's 3 different types of ambulance you can get. I think the Sprinter is, Steve calls it something else, but basically.
might be something like that.
Yeah, but it's the same.
It's just one of those things, I think, since we have the committee, we need to
Yeah.
make sure it runs through the committee
Yeah.
and figure it out.
Right, but we need that EMS study to help guide us.
Correct, absolutely. I think we're good where we're at, what you did. I
Yeah.
mean, again, just me speaking, we're good where we're at, we have the money for the next one. But they were talking the next,
Yeah,
I
but
think.
that's.
And that's
yeah.
where we
No.
gotta
Yeah.
pull it in, get control of everything. It doesn't mean a no, it just means understanding it more in detail,
Right.
aligning it with the study,
Right.
like you're saying. But I think you guys started late this year on the capital committee. You got thrown into the fire, you did a lot of work in a short period of time. Now you get to the point where you're strategic.
Right, now we're gonna, after this is done, we're getting right into the 10-year plan.
To strategic,
Right.
and that's part, and that's
And
why
that's
they gotta
really
come
where-
back to you
yeah.
with the
Yep,
strategic. I think it also falls in line, Naheed was looking at the same type of thing, she wants the same thing on operational, like a 5-year plan operational. So what you're doing on the capital, as we get farther into this, Naheed wants to go to the operational part and say, what are we looking at down the 5-year road, what are we looking at, so we can start to
Right.
put all your pieces together,
Right.
so.
Yeah, because as we get into the 10-year plan, a lot of what we do is replacing kind of what we have,
Yeah,
right? The
maintaining
10-year
and
plan is,
replacing.
you know, if we want to make ourselves better, are there new things that we want, right? You know,
Right.
that's,
Right.
we have to start
But you're
talking
speaking the
about
same language that he was speaking on the
Exactly.
operational side. In order to get where we wanna go, we gotta understand what we
Right.
need.
Right, or we'll just maintain the status quo.
Right.
Okay, let's keep cranking. The Candlewood, it's just the continuing adding to the reserve for the vehicle. They asked for the repave the parking lot. Where the road meets the parking lot, doesn't look great, needs some work, but the parking lot itself can last another period of time. You know, went out there.
I know you drove out,
Yeah.
you actually drove out the parking lot and looked.
Yeah,
And just to be clear, that they have had one parking lot paving approved already. So if you, and that's starting to get the work done on it. So if you see that being done, it was a prior year's parking lot.
I think, again, it's gonna be, maybe we'll get into the strategic discussions. it seems to me that we should get any paving that the town's doing controlled by the highway department, give them a little
I'm
more
with
money
you.
to do it instead of,
Yes.
because there's, there's paving in
I-
multiple
Equipment's
ones.
in town,
I feel like
let them run.
I feel like we've asked that before, and Ralph said they can't do parking lots. We asked that 2 years in a row, and I said, I don't understand why you guys can't, and he said, we can't do parking lots.
But we didn't really push them either.
Well,
we
but
don't-
she's nodding at me when
We
she's
don't,
saying
he
that.
said that again this year, that
They
we,
do.
first of all, we outsource it. And the people that do roads are not the same people that would do parking lots, because roads are an easy slope and parking lots are much more fine-tuned, is what he has said at some point.
So the contracts we have are with people that do streets, not.
Yeah, but the highway
But we
department
would
has
definitely
better,
save money if we had.
Oh, I agree.
and
there is
they have
no-
more
Oh, I'm not
expertise
disagreeing.
in how to do
I just
paving,
remember I-
so-
They
I
do,
think
they
we-
do have an expertise on
I
it,
think
so
we've all
milling the
asked
grindings.
in the past,
We'll
and
get
it's
there.
just been like,
We'll
no.
get there.
I know that,
I
I'm
was more
confident.
open when there's no one down here to pave the road.
Again, I know we'll get there, because this year was reactive, you didn't have a lot of time, next year's proactive. I'm on board 100%.
Some progress on- Okay, let's keep going. Public Works. Public Works is pretty straightforward, it's $1.5 million for paving.
Yeah.
And then the retaining wall, they decided that they, when they took a look at it, that it doesn't need to be repaired, so they took it out themselves. That was easy. On the vehicles, go look at my notes, but we've supported both of the vehicles on here, they're both, I think they're, if you want the details, I'll get them, but they're both.
No, they talked about them.
They
when
did.
were
Yeah,
here.
2011
Yeah.
vintage, so
They talked
they're-
about them.
I was just a little, like, in the past with the vehicle replacements, we've seen them for years on end, and this is like the first request for the two, the
The
2004 and
2004.
the 2003, we haven't seen before. This is our first year getting them.
which is right, which is kind of crazy, right?
But,
It's
Uh,
kind of a big number. I mean, do we need to do both of them, or?
Well, we're not doing this, we're not
Doing
doing
not
number
doing the
three.
second one. Yeah.
Oh.
We're doing the
just-
top
only
one, and then
doing
we're doing the one that we've
backhoe.
rejected
Yeah.
3 times.
The mini excavator.
Right, the
Sorry,
one
I heard trucks and I knew
Yeah.
that there were two.
And the
trucks.
backhoe.
The one that has 3 X's, we pushed off for 3
Yeah.
different
Oh, yeah,
years.
yeah,
Right.
that's the
So-
tool that they use.
And and that's their priority, so that's,
Yeah.
again, on a relative basis, okay, they like
Right.
all of them, right? But, I mean, what I've done, I'm gonna go review with them, I have the entire vehicle list of the Public Works Department, and I've slotted in where we can get every one of them replaced. And we're behind for a couple of years, but we catch up. Now, they have to review it. I showed it to them, and they'd rather just put a single number on the bottom line, so we're gonna continue.
Where trucks are such a big part of their operations, we want to consider a contingency fund for public works vehicles, even if we're only.
Yes
doing
and no.
a smaller amount.
In concept, you're right,
Yeah.
but because we're so far behind,
Yeah,
we'll need to just buy them for the next couple of years until we kind of catch up, and then once we catch up, then we can start a reserve, okay?
I
Yeah,
mean, these
so
trucks are old, so.
they're really old, and there's a list of them that are really old.
I get what you're saying, but I also get his line. We gotta
Yeah.
get to the top
We gotta
before we
catch
can
up.
get a plan, otherwise we're
But the
not there.
structuring itself is a great beginning. Now that you know when you want to replace them, now you
Right.
really go plan ahead.
I didn't say, but I can show you what.
Yeah, that's great.
I just made a proposal for them to react to, so we've got to get together
Yeah.
and go through that, that's okay. Okay, so that's kind of that, the compressor wasn't high importance, so we held off on that.
Were they able to get their salt budget? Remember how they were gonna trade in
They were
the
gonna
salt
try to get
budget?
that out of
Sure,
salt
that's
after
absolutely.
discussions.
Yeah,
But,
they were doing.
right now, he won't tell us on the salt until April 1st.
Got it, okay.
They felt
Yeah, this shit, February was kind of a
Yeah.
drought, thankfully.
pretty good. Right.
Um,
So, on the building, so part of the police additional AC, it needs it for the server room, or our servers are gonna fry,
That's gotta be
7,000.
great. Yeah.
The library gable repairs, if we don't repair those, the library will get damaged, so there
Yeah,
is,
they
it
explained that.
has to be done. The police roof replacement, the roof is currently not leaking. Right,
But you
so,
don't want to get to the point.
You know, I went on Friday and I was
Yeah.
looking up to see also, and my untrained eye thought the roof was okay.
right, and
It-
we're gonna decide what we need to do with this police station,
Yeah.
so why spend $90,000 if the roof's not leaking, so. we
I
can
did ask
survive.
Ralph at our meeting to get an actual estimate. 'cause
Yeah,
it's
we
his-
pushed, and I got that today.
Oh,
And
what is
it's 87,700.
Oh, wow.
Which includes a contingency. I said, no, we don't like contingencies in there.
Yeah.
How much is the contingency? And he hasn't gotten back.
10% probably.
For the
Who
blue-
was
for
the quote
plywood.
from, Aiello?
Yes. A yellow or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine call.
They're really good.
Yeah, fine call.
My only, you weren't here, my only concern with the roof is that it's been on for more than 3 years. It's been on for like 5 years. And we keep kicking the can down the road. And it's gonna take 3+ years to build a police department.
Yeah, we need
So
to,
with like, we probably need to address it at one point or the other. They're saying that yes, it's not leaking, but it's peeling.
and if it starts to leak,
And
that's
if it
much more
starts to leak,
expensive,
then it's
yeah.
mold and all that. So that's just what, I said I would wait to talk to you, but that was just my two, I just know, we've taken it off for like 5 years now, I
I
feel.
mean, my view is we gotta see what's gonna happen at the police station.
But
If
we
we
still
mothball it, no, we're never gonna, if we're not using the building, then.
See, but I'm also along the lines of, that right now, we have a library that might get
The air
vacant. We have a
conditioner.
police station that might get vacant. We're gonna have a lot of buildings that are
But
gonna
we're
get
not,
vacant, so.
nobody's gonna be in a new building in the next 3 years.
There's a
Right.
difference between putting a new roof on and making the roof last for 3 more years.
I don't know the intricacies of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm leaning towards you too, because I think we have other priorities that might need money more so than this one, because I actually saw it the other day and I thought it was looking okay. So I'm thinking, if it leaks, then it is something that we have to fix.
It's on the list because it's end of life, it's got the years on it, right?
Have
So,
we had a building study on the police department as part of that?
I don't know that.
I don't think so.
I didn't know if that was in there.
But I think, won't they be doing that with the new committee? Won't the
Yeah.
committee do a building study? Isn't that part of what
I
they'll
would expect
commission?
they
You'd
would,
hope.
because
Right.
one of the ideas
Is
is that
to
we
just
would
expand
expand
it.
the
Yeah.
existing, which is why we bought the property next door.
Okay.
But if we know for sure next year, we can then say, okay, this is what's happening and we need to get the roof done.
Right.
Yeah, so if it's next year, but we still wanna take care of our municipal buildings, because we wanna be able to use them for other things.
they might come back and say, we're gonna want a new building and we wanna raise the one and put it on the same spot. I don't know.
All right, let's keep going on. We're gonna come back
Yeah,
to
yeah,
that,
'cause
because
it's-
I got some more information just now that.
Okay, so mark that one as
Yeah.
circle back, because there'll be a few circle backs, I think, in here. The well improvement was needed, it's $10,000, we didn't spend a lot
I
of
forgot
time.
what about, was that for, oh, that's.
That's for, that's for
Here,
the
so.
other campus. On the senior center, we did have the discussion that it's $120,000, it's working okay now, it's gonna need to be replaced at some point, coming soon. It could be done 40,000 a year for 3 years. So that was one where we did kind of think, well, maybe we should get started on it. It just didn't kind of get to the priority level. So that's probably one we can circle back on when we look at the overall affordability in the budget and
Okay.
is there room to put them in? So that might be a yellow one
Okay.
as well. And then everything else was just kind of,
Not
you know,
happening.
yeah, just not making the priority list,
Got it.
Understandable.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of pushback on that.
No, the generator for the town hall has been
Yeah.
on there for how many years? We always think it's the town hall.
Right. There's a little bit of confusion here, but I think we're okay. So this 20,000 is the money needed for working on connecting Wisconsin to the public water supply.
It's the
But
town's
there's-
part.
Yeah.
Right, there's a separate line item on the Board of Ed side, which is a much bigger number to actually solving the problem. So it's kind of two pieces of the similar thing.
And I have more information on that from today, that we're not gonna make the deadline for this year, just trying to get someone that would do it and do it effectively. It's due next week.
What's due next week?
The application, if we wanted to try to get it into.
For a grant?
For a grant/loan, but we need plans and things that,
So then you need this 20,000 to get plans. to get to
so
the
we
next
do
stage.
need it, and I have put it in yellow over here, cause I was going to ask if maybe we could change it to, instead of taxes, this column under AA is under taxes. We can't spend that till July 1st. If we have it under other sources, we can spend it as soon as the referendum happens. So that's why that is yellow, and the Kids Kingdom, although we talked about moving the Kids Kingdom even further forward, but those were the two that have time pressures, because they say it does take about a year to pull all this together.
Yeah, and that gets down to, when we get to the bottom line, what's the right affordability number for that?
Mhm.
current year revenue usage number, right? Okay, which we didn't have any visibility to, so we didn't really do too much on.
This is
on that.
awesome, don't, it's
Okay,
awesome.
no. The community room ceiling, so there's a $9,000, reserve already in place, and they wanted 24,000 more to vastly improve this ceiling. And at the end of the day, we said, what's the real problem here? And the answer is, the ceiling is ugly. And we're not gonna give them any more money. They can get a solution that is not particularly pretty for 9,000, but they can get a really pretty solution for 33,000, and so we said, well, we're not gonna pay for ugly.
Good painter.
Yeah, right, exactly. I understood where they're at, you know.
I get it too. I mean,
You know, if it was
Sorry,
less or it
commissioner
was
gonna
something
draw
else,
a mural.
that's where we're, right? Parks, do you wanna take over?
I mean, you can go down the list, and I could kind of interject if
Okay,
you
yeah,
want.
I'll keep going, and you, yeah, please,
And
please.
but I guess before you start, our thinking here with a lot of the stuff is we need to get on like a committee for like a 10-year plan to come up with some of the bigger items and like prioritize some things that we want to do with like fields and different things in town. So that's kind of where we were going with this when we were making our decisions.
Yeah, I agree. This was, the process we've been running for a long time, where it's kind of put everything down you can think of and see what sticks a little bit, you know, prioritized. But particularly for the parks, the other areas are a little bit easier, because it's, you know, it's equipment and, you know, and the Board of Ed did a great job. We need, kind of what the Board of Ed did here. What's the plan for Cadigan, including the docks and or the water? What's the plans for all the school areas? Do we need new parks or whatever? And really get a comprehensive view of where we want to go in the next 5 or 10 years, and then we can slot in how can we afford to pay it. But trying to do a piecemeal of, you know, do we do the Cadigan parking lights or the, it's really hard to do that without a plan.
When I first started, I had a plan of, and that's before the macro bursts and the COVID and everything, was we would get ourselves to a point where we could add one good thing a year for the town. Whether it be for the elderly, whether it be for the children, whether it be for the animal, dog people, whatever, we would get to the point where we were on top of capital, to the point of we can add a project in a year to better our town. Now, we haven't gotten there because we fought, and like you said, we're still behind.
Right.
But that's part of this goal I always thought of the capital committee, is how do we get from feeding, like you said, the stick it to the wall stuff, to saying, hey, 2 years we're gonna have a new baseball, whatever it is, and then we're gonna have a dog park, and we're gonna have a better, something for the seniors, I mean, for everybody.
Right.
And I think you can get there if
I
we
think
do
so
it.
too. So that, we'll do that as part of the 10-year plan, and I think they're off working. We talked to Steve about it, so I think they're off and working on it, but we'll head there. So this is, we're not there this year, and you can see because of that, we didn't really support a lot of stuff. We really supported what really needed to be done just to survive here, right? So if you go, you know, what we supported the Kids Kingdom, you know, obviously that's an important one. Well, there's the dugout roots, so we can take the dugout roots off there.
It's
The
off,
dugout
yeah.
roots.
Came off of Board of
We already
Finance,
did.
suggest the last.
Yeah,
one.
you got a
Right.
different number than what you're used
Okay,
to, we
good.
took it out.
Fine. The Lillinois Woods Road, you know, that needs to be repaved at some point, but it's not gonna ruin it on number 5 if it doesn't get done this year, so that's getting really close. But then you get into the Cadigan, you know, like I said, the parking lot lighting and the other lighting, we have reserves up above for other things. So we really need a comprehensive view of what we're gonna do with Cadigan and figure out the priority of getting those done.
And, yeah, I
But we still
totally
have-
agree.
Yeah, we still have the reserve going up above, so we might wanna reallocate that reserve to something else in Cadigan if they say there's something more important. So, you know, we have some flexibility there. You know, we went and looked at the backstops and they really, you know, they don't need to be replaced immediately. We left in the AEDs because it's a safety thing, and
Yes.
anything we saw that was safety, you know, we were
I
very,
agree.
you know, as long as it really was for safety, we, you know, obviously supported those. And then you can see a lot of this other stuff is nice stuff that we could do at Cadigan. A lot of this is a lot of nice stuff we could do at Cadigan, but until we have a plan, we weren't supporting that. And then.
And I think we should have a plan for Cadigan, it's a great piece of property, we should really embrace it instead of having it the way it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's not really welcoming to the point of, that property's beautiful, it could be very welcoming.
Right. And at the time, we had the campus master plan as our potential LoSiP grant, but we kind of pivoted to the steep grant for the
Lighting.
lighting.
Yes.
And as I look at it, that we've never taken that out formally, that we're not gonna get that grant, but we can take that out so that it's not,
What are you taking out?
The,
Right,
the
good.
two bottom
I
campus.
thought we took that out. Good.
I thought we, maybe we did.
Oh, well, we'll see.
Yeah, we took it out, sorry, I was just
Yeah.
Yeah, we
not
took
all
it
the way
out.
over
Take it out
to the
again.
left. You got it, sorry.
Okay, good. I thought I was wrong once, but that was a mistake. Okay, the building and equipment, it's the same thing. If
Wait,
you-
but
yep,
I have a
good.
question before we go on. I wanted to bring up something Nahid brought up, which was a really good point last meeting, was the cameras. It was bugging me. I don't know, I couldn't sleep one night. And then I thought about it and I was looking and I just wanted to make sure I looked at it right. So it says here, Eric and IT provided a verbal estimate of 15,000. Now, you guys took the cameras out.
Right.
Board of Selectmen put it back in. This is showing 50. Eric and IT provided a verbal estimate of 15.
50's a lot of money.
So
for
where's the,
cameras.
like, it just something, I
I
don't know
asked-
why, I just
I
like
asked
woke up, I'm
Marcia
like, I
that
gotta
same
talk about
question.
this.
You're right.
And I have to bring it back with Nahid, I have to circle back with this, cause she was onto something.
So I didn't catch that the Board of Selectmen
So-
put it back into the.
I read
Where's
in
the
there too,
story on
15,
that?
and then it said 50. I got lost.
Yeah, so
I asked
where's
Marcia
the-
about it
And
the
I
other day.
have to follow
I'm on
up, I
Team Nahid.
actually didn't send her an email, so let me send her an email.
I sent Marcia that 3 days
I
ago. I was
like,
like, this doesn't look right.
So can we find out by tomorrow?
We can.
All right.
And if it's 15, yep. then
Thank you
you'll
for the
go-
push.
Also, I spoke with United Alarms, who does this, and they said they would help us out if that was something that we were interested in. They'd
There's-
come down and,
There's also several IT camera providers that can give you
Yeah.
quotes that we can probably hone in on, and maybe like to Nahid's credit, it is a 3-parter quote, maybe we can do X this time, Y this time,
These
Z
cameras
next
are not
time.
dramatically expensive. I'm actually, 15 sounds about right.
15's in
15 sounds
the
about
body
right.
of
I
it,
know where
50,000's in the numbers.
With that, yeah, I was gonna ask, I was
But
like,
in the body of the request, it's 15.
it says 15.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
That's it.
let's come back on that one then. when get
Should
on
we-
the phone.
well,
Good.
we'll put that in
I'm
yellow,
emailing her now.
okay, cause I was struggling with that one.
Okay, so let's go to Parks, Building, and Equipment. So, number one, it's gonna been asking for 3 years, it's a, don't get my years wrong, I would have said 20, but it's, it's a 13-year-old truck, it's rusting out, it needs to be replaced. So that was pretty straightforward. And then we kind of talked about everything else and said, if you can only get one more thing, what's the most important thing? And they said that, at the time, they said they wanted the truck replaced. Now, right, so, number 2, so we put that in. Now, I think there's been the more recent discussion that the Board of Selectmen put in line 8, the pickup truck.
Right.
But it seems like there's a little bit of a horse trade where we can not do that because they can limp with a repair and instead put the.
Not a repair,
Kubota-
they would get a replacement truck from the fire department. The fire department has a pickup
Yeah,
truck.
yeah,
He texted me now, and this is your guys' gig, this is the capital committee's thing. But he texted me and said, right now it looks like for $6,000, if we replace a fan in one of his other trucks, he will give us a pickup truck, which Parks and Rec will take. So for 6,000, you could save 60 grand on that
Yeah.
line. And they're happy to get this vehicle, Parks and Rec seems to be happy.
Yeah.
So that would give you 60,000. So then in the discussions that we had, and Brian, I know this is your gig, but the discussions we had was they wanted, the Kubota would really help them out, the
Yeah.
32,000 on that. So when you take out the 10,000 for the dugout roofs, and you take the 32 and the 6,000 that we're gonna have to do, 38, you have some money yet to move if you really felt there was something
Yeah.
else you wanted to do.
So let's not put that in yet, put that in yellow, because we're gonna talk about, so we have a little bit, I mean, we weren't going after a particular number, but
Right.
some money's freed up from what we had. Is that more important than the libraries? There's about 3 things on the list now, so let's look at the list once we
I
get through.
agree,
the
sure
whole-
gig, I
Okay?
agree.
Good, okay. It looks like the Board of Selectmen put the Bobcat back in,
Bobcat, toolcat,
toolcat,
you
yeah.
gotta say that 5 times fast in order to.
And although they didn't get a new Bobcat, this one fits the old Bobcat
Yeah.
too, and I
Correct.
believe the thinking was that it's only $5,800.
Okay, I mean,
I think.
for 5,800, that's okay, I mean, okay, let's keep going then, to the school grounds. So the school grounds, we continued to fund, the reserves, and we kind of did a go-forward reserve, so the numbers changed a little bit, but it's the yearly, but it's pretty much the same numbers that we've been doing every year. We had a discussion on the backstop repair. That backstop does need to be repaired. The money was, 19.5 was to replace it, and in my view, it does not need to be replaced. So there's the, I don't know what you call it, but the kind of the overhang piece of it has a hole in it, needs to be repaired. 10,000 is more than enough to repair. We didn't have an estimate of a repair, but we just said, we support repairing it. It can't be
Yeah.
more than half.
If you've gone and looked at it, I'm gonna agree with
Yeah,
you.
and
Definitely,
you
yeah,
could as
it-
well, right, John? Yeah.
10,000 should be
Right.
plenty.
Same thing with the fencing replacements, at some point, but they're in okay shape, so this is not the year to do the fencing replacements. The baseball and softball new lighting came in after we got going, and it happened in the Board of Selectmen, so the numbers are moving around, you can see there's a ton of adjustments. I was gonna ask, so has a grant request gone in?
The grant request went in.
And 750 was the total spend?
Yes.
Okay, so that number was 790, 1 point is 770, 1 point. So the math is, the project's gonna cost 750, 70% we've asked for in the grant, 20% is gonna come out of the CLES budget for ball fields that was in that budget,
Yep.
and the town outside of those will fund 10%. So that's how all the numbers come out. So, and we took out the LoCIP grant on the other one, put this grant in instead, so I think everyone's okay with that one. If for some reason, this grant will be known, if we get it
April
by.
4th, she said.
Yeah, if we don't get approved of this on April 4th, then I think this whole thing comes out and the budget goes down a little bit, and
Yep.
then our kids are sad.
Coaches are sad.
Well, because there's no place to play ball. So I hope we get the grant. Okay, another well, to help the high school with the irrigation, 12,000, keep the fields going, I think that's okay. The playground elements and renovation, the Wisconsin stuff, we just took that out until we really know what's going on with Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You can see the ball fields.
That was a part of kind of that overall plan, and if, what they're gonna do with Wisconsin back there and removing the portables.
And the request did not have a lot of detail in it, like there was a picture of a
Oh,
a
yeah.
spinny thing.
Yeah.
There was no quote or anything.
Crazy.
We want more
That
of
wasn't,
it. You're like, what?
that didn't seem to be
Just
enough
put
thought
that
in
out
that
there.
first
Yeah.
support. The spinny thing, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, it really was.
Anything. Sounds like-
Yeah, well, technically.
I know it's fine for the question.
The rubber chip replace at Kenwood Lake, I originally was a strong proponent of this because a few kids got hurt because the rubber chips were from steel belted radials and had some steel in them. But the MDC assured us that they came through with metal,
They did.
strong magnets, took it all out, it's fine. There's no reason in the world to need to do this, and, they really said they worked hard and vetted hard, so.
One of the things that came up during the meeting, you weren't here, just so you're aware, I don't know if it makes sense or not makes sense, is the Parks and Rec said the rubber sticks to the sidewalk in the winter, they can't
That's
clear
what
the
I said.
sidewalk because these rubber bits freeze
Remember, that's my
To
point,
the-
that was what I was trying to.
to the sidewalk, and it really causes havoc with them. They got over the rubber being a problem, like with metal in it, they got over that, but the next thing was, they had the issue with maintenance. They brought that up to us, we didn't ask the question, but they said the other thing, and I know, I agree, maybe not now, but it's something in the
Well,
big
by the way,
picture.
no, I mean, it's a fair point. The first step in this is if it needs replaced, it should be coming out of the CLES budget where we've made $80 million. If we made the wrong decision, okay, we made the wrong decision, let's get it fixed in the budget that we have.
I'm really good with that. You wanna have a conversation with Paul, we'll bring Paul
Yeah,
here.
I've had a few moments. so
I
yeah.
can have a conversation, I'll have a conversation.
We'll continue
How's that?
it.
I'll
We'll
have a
continue.
conversation with
And
Paul.
I think in the next, whatever, in less than a year, that budget will be ready to be locked down. So if there's extra money, maybe it makes it a little
Yeah.
easier as well. Okay, the same thing with the paving, we just said we gotta figure out ways to prioritize. That road at some point needs to be repaved, but it's not
Mhm.
horrible. The one going into the park, of course.
Mhm.
So that's all that. The Arts Commission asked for 75,000 like they do every year. We suggested to keep funding them as a reserve for 10,000 a year, and, at some point, they didn't have a very specific thing they wanted to
They
do,
never-
but
yeah,
they
they
will
never
at some
did,
point,
yeah.
so we think we should still continue.
Yep.
When they have the money.
The green is pretty.
It's, people like it. We gotta look for the whole town. We can't just look at like the pockets. You gotta look for everybody. People, I agree.
On the education, and Stephanie's a bit more the expert, but this fundamentally is, and I have another chart maybe we should go to, but this is the second year of the 10-year plan with just a few changes. The first is that, I don't remember if it's middle school or the high school, one of the roofs was meant to be done in year 3, but due to the condition, they pulled the roof replacement from year 3 into year 2 and moved something out of year 2 into year 3. So
Okay.
makes a lot of sense.
If
to
you
do
understand it, that's
that. Yeah,
good.
and I can even show it to you on another
No,
chart.
if you understand it, we're
Yeah,
good. You
Very
don't have
smart thing to do. The second is a miss in the 10-year plan were server upgrades in both the high school, I don't know if you can roll up anymore, and the middle school for the security systems. So you need to have usable servers to run your security systems, all that. So they wanted to add that in. It's 54,000 in the middle school, and it's
Big number up
big
top.
numbers, so 220, whatever that is, 230-ish for that. They've looked at the plan to refurbish all of the restrooms in all the schools, and they were kind of doing 3 a year, and they saw that that was overfunded in the 10-year plan, so they took some out. It didn't fully cover this server thing, but it covered a lot of it, so it was a pretty smart thing to do. And then there were a few things in here that weren't in the 10-year plan, the new scoreboard, weight room equipment, all that, and given that this 10-year plan is very front-loaded, we did not support adding those things in this year. So you can see it says equipment, but one of them is a scoreboard, 53,000. There was another piece. It was the curtain in the middle school. If you go down to the middle
Curtain,
school,
scrubber.
there was one, a floor scrubber, which was like the BMW floor
To
scrubber.
compete,
Envy
to
of all.
compete with
CLAS.
CLAS.
Yes. Now, we did keep in the carpeting in the main office, right?
Yeah.
Because that is a safety issue. The carpet's coming up and people are tripping on it. So we can't let that happen. And then finally, outside of the two schools, they asked for a new van, which carries stuff kind of between schools and all that. And they've agreed that they'll just buy a used van. So $20,000 for a used van.
Is there another fire department?
Yeah.
I know, yeah. They-
It's
Let me work
actually-
on it.
This is actually a
They
van. not
need a-
They know, they-
Yeah.
No, but they
That-
like
If they have
SUV,
them.
they generally have SUVs.
Yeah,
That
they
might
couldn't
not be
deal with an
as
SUV, so it's like,
concerning as a van.
Police
They
has
actually have
SUVs.
plans for that other vehicle.
Yeah.
They're gonna do something that's gonna help us out down the road somewhere else.
But I
So-
guess if sometimes you want a van, but if there's an SUV, that's going to cost us no money.
But you
then-
can't get the stuff into the SUV.
So that's the problem.
Yeah.
They're
It's
trading out
AV
the
equipment and
current.
stuff, it just, you
Oh,
can't get
yeah.
it in.
There's a current van that they
There's a
want.
current
Yeah,
van,
yeah, yeah.
and they need an upgrade to get an equipment vehicle because they're making multiple trips to Home Depot. Some of them are using their own trucks to be able to put stuff in the
Yeah.
back of them. So.
But they're gonna buy used ones, I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty fair.
Can I ask you, in the high school, now that I have a student in the high school, I've heard about the weight room and the equipment. I don't know if it's the space that is a subpar or if it's the equipment that's
They
subpar.
were asking for the equipment.
It's the equipment.
No, I'm
itself.
just, it's the equipment itself, because we've talked to coaches about, for, especially with injury prevention being a big thing with students, and the coaches like, equipment isn't really feasible for being able to use it. So, just something to consider,
Yeah, that wasn't brought up in the discussions, it is
and
interesting.
it hasn't been asked for
Right.
before, so.
Right, and like I said, the 10-year plan is front-end loaded, so there is
It was.
there is room in the out years to start doing some more things.
And it was something that came up because they redid the weight room last year, and now that it was complete, when Dr. Burrell sat down and Casey sat down with the athletic director and the principals, that was how it came up. That's why it wasn't in the 10-year plan, and that's why it was like a separate request.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, oh, now that we have this expanded space, we don't
Yeah.
have the right equipment for it.
Oh.
So that's what you
I
have to
mean,
do before.
The real history is though,
It's
we
supposed to be
went
part
from
of the-
600,000 to 900,000 to 1.3 million to do the overhaul.
Mhm.
And it had, the
Right.
600,000 had
It
all the original
included.
equipment in it,
Yeah.
all the weights, and then it came to 1.3 just for the shell.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we were like, we can't fund
Right.
any more than 1.3 at this time.
Right.
So that's why the equipment fell to the wayside, because it went from 600 to 900 to 1.3. And then actually we had to give another 100,000. I think it went to 1.4 in the big picture. We gave another 130,000 on top of that. So we got to the
It had
point
been on the
where
radar
we
for a
just
while.
couldn't get to that stage
Right.
for the equipment.
Okay, interesting.
The water that's in here, you said we didn't have the time, right, we
Um,
ran,
So, but we should be able to get it for next year's grant. So in the year that we could, we want to get it started, it would have to be, it would be able to be done, if it's passed, it would be able to be done next summer.
so the 618 needs to stay in there.
So the 618, and there's some notes on some of these. The 618, the state has a program that we use for the Candlewood Lake Road where if we take a loan out with the state at a 2% to fund that, all of a sudden, on day one, they forgive 25% as a grant. And so we'd want to take that loan out. And then the second one is some of these have 2 stars next to them that Steve's been pushing, that there's grants out there for this. And Casey is looking into them, and we should know before we have to bond it. So if we could approve the whole thing, and then let's say we approve 2.5 million of bonding, and we get grants that are 500,000, we would only bond 200,000, release 200,000, or use it, some other approved projects. It would all have to go through the approval process, nothing.
Good, 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 yeah, that's good, I was gonna bring that up. Throw that on the chart real quick, just, 'cause this made it a lot easier. So this is, you can read it, is the 10-year plan. You can see the original plan on the top, so it's $12 million over the 10 years. We funded, the first year was 2215, we funded that right onto the plan last year. This year, the plan was 2137, so you can see they pulled in the Brookfield High School roof.
So the difference is 71.
Right, so it's difference of 71,
Not
and
a
that's
big
what the
deal.
things moved in.
The
Now, next,
differences are down the bottom, yeah.
Yeah.
right, next year's a little bit more because we shifted some things out, so it goes up by 250. But at
Year
the
5,
full
you get it
10-year,
back.
right, so the full 10-year plan's only up by 123.
That's
Which-
over a 5-year, 10-year
over
plan.
10 years.
Right,
Oh, wow.
and once you get into year 4, you can see we've been spending 2.2, we'll spend 2.2, 2.2, then it kind of drops down to the 1.3 level, so I'm saying, it's kind of planners group a little bit, there's
Oh,
room to
okay,
do
so
stuff.
year 5 through 10s, that counts, that 45,
That's-
that 40.5
That's
is over
over
6 years, yeah.
Right,
Oh.
Okay.
so it's like $1 million a year, so once we get, same thing, once we get caught up, we have room to do
And we
new
took the hit
stuff.
on the servers for 220.
And we
in
took
there.
the, right, that's why even though we took the hit for 220, it's only 123 because they
It was a
did
bad word,
reduce-
I'm just saying, we had to
No,
spend
no, yeah,
220. I
you can
mean,
see the bathroom sizing, they took almost
Yeah.
200,000 out of that.
Okay, so I mean, it's really not that big.
Right, so we're maintaining to that 10-year plan very well, and sneaking in some, not sneaking, putting in a few things that got missed or that we need, so.
You
that's-
understand it all right, everybody
do.
gets it? You get this, what's happening here?
And then if you don't really, the next page is probably how I would describe it, should I have to describe it, but in very simple terms, that's what we're gonna spend the 2.2 on. I just kind of summarized a little bit and by school and how it's getting paid for. So if there's, for example, a chart on that.
But the domestic water service upgrade actually wouldn't happen this year.
Well, we'd still
So it has to be
fund
part
it
of
this
this
year.
year's budget
That's
because
a
of all the.
study though.
It
Right.
includes the engineering plan, the study, the actual, once
Which
it
you
gets
need to
approved,
get
the
to the grant,
drainage.
and
Okay.
to get to the next level,
That's
we
the
gotta
whole
do
thing.
this.
This is the whole, so if we get a grant,
Back.
right, and because it's bond, we
Yeah.
might not end up spending it, but it would
Yeah.
be.
Well, it also would
Reserved.
allow us to contract for the work to be done next summer,
Okay.
this
Oh,
year,
that's
before
right.
waiting
Yeah.
for next year's budget.
Okay, so that's, I think we went through the whole capital.
Okay.
Now,
Here, I'm gonna throw some at you then.
Yeah.
You ready?
well, yeah, but we still gotta go back and look at the yellow ones.
I know, well, hold on, I'm gonna throw some at you.
Throw away.
We got 10,000 from the roofs.
10,000
Dugout
from the
roofs,
roofs.
10,000
Yep.
in the good for you guys. You 3 of the committee, with our 4th member not being here. We are gonna take 60,000 away from the truck. And we need 6,000 to do the parts. So just hear me out, 60,000.
I never had the 60,000 truck.
You had 66 in there.
No, it was
No,
first
well,
line.
they,
Oh,
Yeah,
Board of
yeah.
Selectmen, okay, Board of Selectmen put it in there.
So you're down, you're minus 50, keep going.
We're not minus 50, we're plus 70
Put
right now.
60 in.
I know, we're plus 70, we're plus 70. And we're gonna do the King's Kingdom this year. The 50,000.
The
You have people for
50,000.
that this year?
We
Yeah.
did, and we decided we should have, well, you weren't here again, I apologize. What we thought about it was, we'd like to have it done for the summer, not wait till the budget passes. We'd like to have it so the kids can play in the summertime when they're out of school, because that's the time it gets used a lot. So instead of waiting,
That's probably, is that a Wednesday discussion? To,
well, it's a discussion now to
I mean,
talk
but
about.
more of a
capital.
decision, I
Yeah.
should say.
No, we're not making a decision. I'm saying if you had $120,000 right now, free of capital to keep it sort of status quo. I know the 60 got thrown in, but
Yeah, still.
we had to do that because of the insurance for the ski team. That truck was being used for ski equipment, the ski team, and there's a liability of a personal vehicle moving stuff, accident happens. So that vehicle, that was one of the reasons they put it in. So we can get it for 6. So right now, if you had $120,000, and we talked about a roof for the police, this is not decision making, but we talked for a roof for the police. I feel personally about the Kubota, the 32, I'd like to see that, but you guys did all the work. So you were the ones that
Well,
put
my view
the,
is the Kubota, and I'd like to get started on the AC on the senior center personally.
I mean, you guys did the work, this is your rubber to the
And
road.
Can
Those were
I,
the two.
can I piggyback on what you're saying?
Go ahead.
There's a potential about this 50 grand for cameras.
Oh,
So we don't
yeah.
even know
should
if
go
that's.
Yeah, that might
35,
be
get
another
35 more
You
of
have
that.
to-
That's
That's your
right.
Kubota.
I haven't heard back from either
Yeah,
Sheena
but-
or Eric
I'm
on
okay.
Wait,
that.
but do we have that?
I-
But a legit, I'm 100%
have-
all
Do we
about.
have, we didn't have that in
Where
there.
I have
No, that
mine, you
was-
didn't approve it.
So it would
The
only be
BOS
15 that
approves
we
it,
would
and
add.
honestly, there's
If
two
that was
conflicting
the-
figures,
yeah.
so why are we approving it? 15,000 and
Yeah, I
50.
think we table that till tomorrow until we get the facts.
I'm really okay with that, but
I
I'm
am
saying,
too.
since the 3 of you are here though, and this was your baby.
Yeah,
Well, the Kubota was one of the things that we were
that was.
laboring over,
right,
so
the
I
things
definitely
that we-
feel
right,
like that
the
would
Kubota
be.
and
And that was
the-
32, right?
Yeah.
32.
Okay.
And the AC, starting on the AC in the senior center is another one that we
This is
kind
like a 40.
of struggled over.
And hasn't the library they've had shutdowns, right, because of the AC problem with the library too?
But the library, they couldn't do it
They
in
can't do it in
sections.
sections. We
And
can
that
only
is
do
a
that.
It's $100,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 120.
and we decided to wait until the
Okay.
recommendation of the ad hoc committee.
But I
because
think
of-
Ralph was also saying that if it happens, it happened, and then we have
Everyone's
to,
has
we
to
have to
figure it
fork
out.
out the $100,000, so.
No, that's part of life. I mean, we have to
Yeah.
figure that out. And we
Yeah.
always say that. We sit as a team and we figure it out. That's been your
Yeah.
motto
That's-
since you've been on the board.
And by the way, I don't
Yes or no?
100% agree with that. The point that I think, if I remember, was that if it goes, it's really hard to get the refrigerant.
It's like the
Yes.
the
Yeah.
R.
That's the
yeah,
problem. You're not
232.
getting the
Because I
refrigerant.
didn't-
But no, I don't
use
think
it
that's,
anymore.
it's
They don't
hard,
use it anymore,
at the
yeah.
moment, it's hard to get the refrigerant.
And pretty soon
Eventually, it'll be
it's-
impossible.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So, over the next year, is it impossible? I don't think so.
So Brian's
I'm
still
okay.
okay with hard. Not impossible, it's just hard.
I am.
What if it's
No, we're
almost
good with
hard?
that.
It's somewhere in the United States.
I'm-
that we
that's
can-
one
I'm
person.
the truck, by the way, I'm with you on the senior center, because one of the things we market the senior center as is a cooling
That's what
and
our-
heating station. Like, that's where town people go if we're having, so
Struggle
if
with
we
that.
have
So's
an
the
adequate air
library, though, to be
conditioning.
fair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, but the library can't be partial now, so.
Exactly.
I do think the 50,000 for the King's Kingdom is a must-do now, because we talked about, right, what we had is, we're gonna have maybe a $200,000 surplus this year, but that ain't gonna move our general fund needle.
At all.
50,000 is not moving our needle at all, so we sort of gotta figure that out. But if we did King's Kingdom this year, and the 60,000 for the truck and the 10,000, that gives you 120. You did a lot of hard work, I'm just saying, that gives you 120. If you consider the Kubota, again, that leaves you 90. You could do 40,000 on the senior center, and then if you wanted to add something in, or you wanna cut it there at
Yeah,
that
the
point,
60,000 for the truck was never in, so to our number,
so then you'd almost be at the number
What if you
anyway,
what was
held,
the number anyway?
what if
within a
you,
few thousand bucks.
So that's why I wouldn't do anything else at the moment.
if you
Personally.
held the remaining amount that we didn't think about towards a, you know, we keep hearing hard but not impossible, or if the roof leaks at the police department, or if the library
Okay.
goes to the AC, you hold that money for the,
So,
in
yeah.
the.
It's like a capital contingency, yeah.
Well,
Do you put it, do you, when we get, when we get to the end of the
Something's gonna go
budget,
down.
hold on, when we get to the end of the budget and we're looking at numbers, and the number's at 3.5, and we say, we can go to 3.6 and add a reserve
There you
in,
go.
would we have a place for a reserve? You were talking about possible reserve for something, Cadigan, something you were talking
oh,
about a
there's
reserve.
places, yeah, yeah.
So that's the final decision.
Yeah, that's a final decision,
Okay.
no question. There's a place we could put it.
part of the model I built for later, you'll see how the numbers work, the big numbers,
Yeah.
and that way it'll help with that thought process.
Yeah, and just by the way, my view is that the education loan stuff and all that is also a bit of a potential contingency. Because if we can get 25%, if we put 618 in and we get 25%, that's effectively saving us $150,000.
Yeah, that's a big number.
Right,
Yes.
so that's kind of a contingency too. I don't know the odds of getting that, but I'm hoping it's
Right.
reasonable.
It sounds like it is.
And we'll use monthly loans for all of the things that are capital plan projects, like
Anything
your,
that's
the
allowable,
double star
right,
things that you were
25%,
saying
yeah.
Casey's gonna start applying for.
Yeah, I agree.
Correct.
So
So those will
then,
be coming.
So the water is a 25% grant. The other ones, I think, are 20% grants. And
Yeah.
but the water is associated with a loan with it, and the other ones don't have a loan with it. They're
Right.
just a grant.
Right.
And Ralph has said that he would be comfortable reducing the police roof by 10,000. But really the unknown is the decking underneath it.
Yeah, that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Which they can't because it's secure, right? So
Yeah, you
So-
can't
They
see it
can't
until
see
you do
it
the
until
work.
you
Until you
open
open
it,
it,
yeah.
So to speak to your philosophy, Brian, on this, I know you were trying to keep it down, way down, right? I mean, you pushed it down hard. But since we do have a little bit of room, I think we should consider going the other way a little bit, you know what I'm
Well,
saying?
Again, to
We
get
talked
through this
about.
backlog.
why don't
of
we,
stuff
so
that
why don't we, I think everyone's in agreement
The Kubota.
to
Yeah.
put the Kubota in,
Yep, okay.
take the truck
Down
out
to
that was
6.
put in,
Didn't bring it down to there.
whatever, yeah, bring it down to 6.
'Cause we're gonna need- Well, no, take it out. Oh, it's cash capital. Leave it in
Leave it
6.
in, leave it
Yeah.
in, leave it in 6. I think we're all in agreement on starting on the senior center air conditioning.
Yeah.
You guys all in agreement? This is your
Yeah.
committee. This isn't our committee. This is your
No,
committee.
these are all things that we had
Right.
Yeah.
And the senior
balanced.
center has the generator, right? So that's also emergency shelter?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what.
Then why don't we do this? I don't know where the numbers come out now, but why don't we,
Do we have Kids Kingdom as current?
oh yeah, we're gonna take
Yeah,
Kids
that
Kingdom
is-
out.
Yep, King Kingdom comes
Yeah, I
out.
didn't know if it was in the
Yep.
chart that way.
I
I mean, it's not permanent decision, so it's fine.
And then why don't we put in?
So it comes out because we're doing it now?
No, I was
Yeah,
gonna
we're
say,
gonna
so
do it
it's
now.
gonna
Yeah,
come
it's
out
not
of
coming
this
out.
year's, okay. It's
We're
just-
gonna try to
it's
find money
moving.
in
Gotcha,
this year,
got you.
not
Okay.
next year's budget. We're gonna
Yeah.
try to find money in this year's
year's
budget.
budget.
The philosophy is if we don't start getting it in place now,
It
it's
won't
not
be
gonna be in
ready for
place for the summer. And if we really, you know, if we're thinking of the children and all the kids that come here in the summertime, I think we'd wanna
Yeah,
do that. Instead of
absolutely.
delaying it
Yeah.
for a summer
Yeah.
and a year, if we can find a way on our side, and that's on us now to find that.
And as Brian said, the kids would be sad.
Yeah.
Kids would be sad.
All right,
And then why don't we go back to
Right.
the police roof?
I'm just seeing where that truck is. Okay.
Yeah.
Police roof.
Yep.
For now, why don't we put in a 50%
50?
reserve on that?
That's your call.
Well,
This is what I'm
So,
saying.
in other words, because we know it's, at some point, we're gonna have to do something with that roof
Correct.
unless
Put in
we.
40?
40,
First time.
That's a compromise.
40,000, yeah. 'Cause he
Right?
said
What
he'd
do
be,
you want?
he said he'd be
And
okay
then
with
if it
at
does-
80.
If we do need it, then we have.
Compromise, is that a
Yeah,
compromise? You-
because then if we all of a
Naeem?
sudden need it, we're halfway there.
Brianna,
oh,
compromise,
I'm
you
fine
willing
with
to?
that, yeah.
See, there you
Yeah.
go. How about you guys?
What were you gonna
Compromise,
say?
you're willing to
Well,
live?
I was gonna say if, because what struck me was when you said even if we decide on a new one, it's not gonna happen for 3 years. So why don't have it like 30,000 each year?
Yeah.
And then when they do make the decision, if we still need to replace it, we'll have those funds.
Right,
Um,
your call, your committee.
Well, no, it's the committee's call.
Yeah.
What did he say if you don't need to replace the decking, how much was it?
He
Oh,
said
80.
he
Oh,
would
80,
be
yeah.
comfortable with
Oh,
80,
That's
but
acceptable.
we know that, it should be known that he doesn't know where the decking stands.
Why
I know
don't we
when
put,
we had our
why don't we
roofs
put
on-
30 for now, and then we'll come back and, at the end when it's all together, because I just
When
don't
we had our
know.
roofs done a couple years ago, it was like $100 a sheet. It was something.
Yeah, we
Roofs
did
got
that
very
last
expensive
year.
recently.
We
Yes,
only
they
need
did.
2 sheets though.
Yeah, we
really
Yeah, that's
need it.
another
Sometimes you
thing.
don't get that one.
Even if it's 30, we're heading in the right direction,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a compromise.
Starting towards,
Yeah,
right.
we're
Because
good.
like you guys said, heaven forbid something happens,
All right.
we're
We're on our
30
way.
closer.
Right.
When
And
do
honestly,
we?
if something happens and it just needs a repair, 30 should cover a repair.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
at least
So-
that will get
Yeah, no,
started.
I think,
Which is,
Good.
the ideal solution, right? They're
Mhm.
covered for repair.
Right.
Also, the roof just blew off the middle school and insurance is covering the entire thing. So if something happens like dramatically, insurance could cover it.
It might be a
So
blessing
we're
in
hoping for a
disguise.
windstorm.
Right? A big
That's
windstorm
not-
to blow the police roof off and then.
No,
So I'm hoping for.
But I'm just saying, like, if something dramatic
Yeah, we see
happened,
that,
it's
yeah.
not necessarily
hoping
like,
for on
oh,
my
no,
roof.
we have to, I know.
That's how we got the lights in the fields at the high school.
That's right, because they all
Yeah, back
went
up
down.
just
no more catastrophes.
No more
Yeah.
A little wind is one
I'm just
thing.
saying.
So,
We don't wanna wish for
when
any
do
of
we
those.
have to have
Not wishing
capital
for it.
agreed to, Marcia? When does this have to be approved?
It's gotta be in your, at the end of the month.
By the end of the month, so we have
But-
time still.
But like the 24th or something like that.
You still have the meeting scheduled for the 21st, so.
Right, which I might have a conflict, I'll call in, but if not, you guys are in charge and I'm good, whatever you decide, how's that?
No, we'll be, this is the week, we're making all the.
Okay.
Hopefully we can have this.
Yeah, we're
done.
going
I think
to.
so.
Like your
So-
positivity.
So-
On capital right now, we made some moves, we're all happy with the moves.
Yeah, the moves, what does that net say? What's the Board of Finance adjustments?
It's 18,526. And the big
24.
one is here, but that is, the grant.
The grant, yeah, we're just doing
Okay,
that.
so I mean, we didn't move it too much and we added in a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Did we take out
So,
King's Kingdom or no?
We did.
Not
Oh, and
yet.
did we make
Yeah,
the 50,000
we-
to 50?
That-
Yeah, we negated the.
We're
Should we
waiting
turn
to
the
hear back.
cameras?
But we
no, we'll
haven't
wait
yet.
if we hear from that, we're under,
That's my point, yeah.
Yeah.
so,
Good.
Under
right?
for
You happy?
The
You
camera,
happy?
the
Yeah.
cameras
Yes,
at the park.
yes,
John, you happy?
Yeah, that's great.
yes.
That's a
I
good.
think
We're
it's a
good.
good,
You guys
And we
did
put
great,
the-
I
we
think
put the
y'all did
RTE
awesome,
back
you
in, yeah.
prioritized it
Yes.
very well, I think.
Good job, guys,
doing it
good job.
before.
Yeah.
No, I think though, if you continue on it, we turn the page like you guys
Did
said,
not teach you how.
Yeah.
Thank you, but I,
and we take it the next level,
But this
Brian.
is
Yeah,
huge,
now we're going to
planning
the-
is
to
so.
the
us
10-year
names
plan.
Yeah.
that stick together.
I mean, I think about the first years where we as the
Yeah.
board did the
Yeah.
capital and
And then
like,
Rick
that was
did
a
it.
lot of work.
And then
Oh.
Rick-
I was gonna say, I can't imagine you
Yeah,
not
that's how
having
it
a
was, but
separate
we had to
committee.
do
We got
it.
like 6 meetings for this,
No,
so.
this was great, that was a great job.
So
And
good.
planning ahead, right? We
So
Yeah.
Very prepared and
Just to have
planned,
that.
always
Yeah.
proactive, that's the ideal way to be.
Brian laid a great groundwork for us to understand everything, so appreciate
Yeah,
you
no,
leading the
absolutely.
charge on that,
Absolutely.
so.
We're
And
getting
we
back
made
to
it
the
very-
10-year
So
plan
how much
in
backup
about
documentation,
3
all the
weeks or
different
so.
departments, Steve,
Yeah,
and everything, so
yeah,
there was
it made
really
it
a lot of
super easy to review
transparency.
everything.
So before everybody leaves for the capital, Marcia, what's your thoughts, where we stand, you okay?
Yeah,
We could-
oh, I think it's
Are we
good.
missing things, or are we good, we covered the bases?
Not anything that's keeping me up at night.
Right, so that's all that matters.
The only thing that's gonna keep me up tonight is, did I do this the right way? The net is the same, but is it showing right that,
I think it's gotta be pertinent here, because when you do the math, it's so
Forward over
close.
to me, and when I add it tomorrow, I'll double
My
check.
my napkin math says we're close.
Net and net figure code.
'Cause I'll have to-
All right, so then we can move on, so thank y'all.
Okay, thank you
All right.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah,
night.
it was great.
you're welcome to stay.
Yes.
I mean.
Thank you.
You don't go to enough meetings.
What is the second, what is
Although
the
I am
second
coming
part?
Wednesday, so
The second part, you wanna know the truth?
Yeah.
It's gonna be Board of Ed,
maybe I should.
All right.
Okay.
but I can't have you sit at the table and I
I know,
can't have you
that's
interact.
No, I wouldn't.
Take care, guys.
We take a
Thank you.
5-minute
Thank you,
break,
thank you.
Terry, so-
Yeah, you can, you wanna, now you take it, we'll continue on, we'll get loaded up.
So to speak.
Should I stay?
So, you wanna put it up there then,
Should I stay for a little bit?
It's your choice.
what we did today?
Yep.
Oh, your thing?
So what I did with Marcia is I did a history of how we got to where we are.
Nice.
So where we started, what Steve did, and the Board of Selectmen did. And then also Eileen brought up a good point, and when they come back, and I'll tell this, she said, because we held a contingency on our side, and Brian brought up the transparency.
Right.
Their true budget,
It's not true.
it's not true year on year,
Yeah.
because they were always 500,000 behind. So part of their increase is catching up.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So there's a weighted percentage in here too, in this model. So I'll walk you through each step of what happened, how do we get there. Then they came back to us, and when Brian's here, we'll go to that. They said, hey, we've reviewed it. Part of that is our communication problem to the board, because we always said, don't put it in if it's not real.
Right.
But I don't know if we ever communicated 90% is pretty real, but I mean, that's in the semantics of the words. So we're gonna walk through that now, and We'll see where we land, and then I have a plug and play number, where we can plug and play.
I'm gonna
Now,
calculate
move that to 220, Marcia, because that's where you started on the plug
Yeah.
and play.
220 even?
No, just the 225.11.
Okay.
Oh, so you would tell Brian what you did?
Oh, this is.
No, I'm gonna wait for Mary.
Oh,
I'm gonna wait
okay.
for Mary now.
This is what, blended.
Yeah.
Actually, Marcia cleaned it up. I gave her the guidelines, and she said, this is not gonna work.
Well, it just, if you couldn't see the formulas, it was hard to tell what you were doing.
So
I'm
you
not
mean
sure
there were
this
like little
is-
post-it notes of napkins that I
Yeah.
took pictures of?
I'm not sure this is better, but I.
All right, we're gonna start. Mary will have to catch up, all
Okay,
right?
just to point out that, for those of you that weren't here, and the health insurance looks like it is coming in at 11%.
It is? Oh, no.
But it's not 13%, which
All right.
they could have been.
But
Their
11%
numbers are right.
means that we were banking on having that.
So here we go. So when they first came to us,
Sorry.
last year's budget was 52 million, that number there, 836 or whatever the heck, 896. So they came to the Board of Selectmen with this number here, the 54, 820, 254. So then we knew, go to the next column, we knew we had to add in 489 for the health insurance to get them from the 4.8 to the 11, right? The OPEB is what Steve and everybody talked about, reducing that, so that's just an actual budget move, less 100,000. The net move is 389. So then they got a new budget number of 55,208 as a need. That's their new need number, right? That's the request plus the addition of the health insurance minus the OPEB contribution. So that became their true need number.
But where's the, like, you know, the half a Portuguese teacher and that kind of stuff? There's more than just.
That's built into that number,
Which one?
into the 54 number. That's built into that
That's
number.
their
Okay, got it.
So that's their original request,
Got it,
Brian.
got it, got it,
That's
got it.
their
That's
request.
the 3.6.
So then, the next addition is the
Got it.
489, which is a need that's not really an
They
extra
were
request.
407 or whatever, it went up to 11, got it.
Correct. The 100,000 was the OPEB contribution
Got
that the actuary said we didn't need to do. So the real and true ask became 55,209.
Right.
That's the real ask with health insurance. Then the Board of Selectmen chose to take 170,000 out. But when you take in the 489 that they added in with the 100,000, it's a 219 add. So on our budget, it looks like a 219 add. It's truly a 170 reduction from their ask.
Yep.
Okay, so we're all following that, right? So that left them at a 4.05% increase. Then the Board of Ed came to us because we had a misunderstanding of the nomenclature on, we always told them, don't put in special ed if you don't know 100%, and it's 90%. They think they've had 2 go in out of the 4 already now in this year, so they're gonna be at that 4. So they came to us the last meeting with a number of 625.11.
And was
Okay.
that the, I'm sorry, because I don't remember the number. There were like 3 buckets in there.
Yes.
That's everything that was on that chart.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And then they said it was, they were expecting it to be 9%.
Yeah, it was like
One of them
90.
was 90%, but I mean, it's
It was
pretty,
96, yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
so
good.
it's pretty good. So what I told Marcia is, let's take 620 out of the reserve. We had 650 in the reserve, remember? That was a big number.
Yep.
Let's take the 620, 511 out to cover them whole. Okay?
Mhm.
Just as an exercise. So now their whole ask. So then the next cell is, I was playing around with, okay, that number's not gonna fly. So how do we get this down to a number that works? So if you plugged in, if we took out $220,000 extra on top of the 170, this is only numbers. I don't need you to get nervous. Okay, so if we took out 220, that would give us to 4.31% increase. 4.81. However,
Here, you switch with me, you come closer.
okay, Eileen brought up the point where, what are you doing?
Okay.
Eileen brought up the point that we don't necessarily calculate the increase year on year because we hold so much money on our side, and that, talk to your point of transparency, Brian, that their budget is really a bigger number. So if we added in here, the 52 plus the 544 we gave them, this is prior year, up here, up the top.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we, right here, see? So if you add in the 544 we gave them, their real starting point from year on year is 53 million.
Right.
And
So you're following all this, right? Everybody's following this?
Yeah.
I,
Everybody's following this?
except I'm following it, but I did it wrong. That 544 is this year's that we would have given them. I have to pull out what it would have been last year. That,
Yes.
yes,
yeah.
I see.
Minus the 200,000 that we got. I
I
wanted
see
to talk
that.
to you about that too, because they got
But this-
200,000 back.
And
But
is
I
that, that's
should-
Isn't the
including their
$52,896
$150,000?
for 24-25 budget?
Yeah, the 544 is a 25 budget. I'm gonna run next door and see what the 24 budget was that we added to them.
See, what I wanted to do is get to a weighted average of percentage increase. So what we're really looking at, so right now with the 220 out, she doesn't change that number. Right now, we're at a 3.74 increase true year on year to current need. That's with taking out the 220. So that's with Steve taking out 170 and this board taking out 220 for a 370. Now, when she gets down here, I'll show you what the contingency happened, because this all rolls to the contingency now. So the contingency, we move 650 out, and we move some back in. So on the contingency side, when Marcia comes back, you'll see if we move this number to 120, it's gonna reduce the contingency down to 200,000. So then it becomes a point of how do you wanna handle going forward with contingencies on the Board of Ed side and on the town side.
Because in this Excel spreadsheet, in your theory, you're showing like what Eileen was saying about how it doesn't really show the contingencies prior, and Brian's saying it's more transparent if we put
Correct.
everything in
'Cause-
that we're
What they're
giving them.
actually-
Right,
What
because
they're actually
when they're
spending.
starting at a low number,
this
that
is
this
speaking to
percentage
exactly what
increase,
Eileen and Brian
this
were saying.
percentage increase is 4.81, but when you weight it, it's 3.7.
Yeah.
Right.
Which makes a big difference in the town's eyes, to
Yeah.
Eileen's point. And to Brian's point is, the town should know what they're paying for.
Yeah.
Correct.
You said that in the
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah, yeah, I'm just, the weighting's what's confusing. If I understand this right, that's.
Prior year,
Current, you're in right now's budget.
yes.
We know they're gonna overspend by this, so they're
Yes.
actually gonna spend that.
Yes.
This year, they're gonna spend whatever next year, so from what they're gonna spend this year to what the budget is, it's 3.74.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
But
Now, the
if-
thing here that's a little bit, you could get caught on, is the 53,441 on a year-to-year basis is huge, because they got 6% this year, plus
Yes.
another 500 on top.
I get it. But you gotta start somewhere
I
with
got
a
it,
weighted.
but okay, but just,
I struggled with this over the
this is
weekend.
actual to budget is up a little less than 4, yep. 374. Yep.
374, we're moving 220, but now roll down a little, Marcia, just so we can roll
Just
down.
to clarify, this is the right number because this is
Yeah,
the
that's right.
2025 budget,
Right.
2025.
But they did get $200,000 extra, is that included in there? Does that make a weight on that
Okay,
number?
Let me take out that one.
What's it-
That 200,000 that just came in for
This
the.
came, it's
just came
it's
in.
less than that 554, we just got 200,000 last week, the
Oh,
governor
that,
gave,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's gonna change that number a little.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
now, we're weighted here to 413, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So now, take out the, and that's with, go down, that's with taking out the 220. Go down, up, I apologize, go up.
Should be, yeah.
That's with taking out 220. We're at 413 weighted, year on year. That's actual spend, plus the contingency money, of the money we gave them. So now we're at 4.3, so now roll down, let's go down here. So here was our contingency. We started with 650, we took 620 out, we came down, we're at 300 now. Of that, 50 is for the union wages for the registrar,
The union wages, related costs, and
Registrars.
registrar's hours.
police dispatcher is what we talked about. Brianna wanted a police dispatcher. So there's 300,000 in there, which, if you look at it, that gives us 200,000 to split between the town and the BOE. I was of the point of, we've given their budget, no contingency for them, they gotta manage their budget. Most of y'all were like, we gotta do something a little softer than what Glenn thought.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. Because if we're taking care of 100%, so instead of the 620, if we did like 50% of it or 70%, which we talked about the other day, that they're asking for 620, considering everything goes, the way they're estimating it's going to be 620, but what if a student drops out or a student they might spend 500 or 450. So if we were to say we give you 70% and then we keep some on our side, then it's both sides, you know, we're
Well, that's
covering
the
them.
soft, that's what, I think Eileen said, so if we change this number to take 100,000 off of that 220 number, and we say, from our side, we're only gonna take 120 out of their budget,
Yeah.
okay?
That's on top of what the Board of Selectmen took out.
On 170, this is our side,
So we're
120.
adding 500 back in, and that's, so you,
No, in the net thing, that's why I want to show you. Net is, with all these movements around, their asks are real needs, okay? So Steve took 170 out of their real needs. So this is on top of, this is cuts they have to find, would be 120. But when we take the 120 here, let's go down, please, I want to see that. That changes this contingency now down to 200,000.
Yep.
And that allows us only 100,000 in extra money for the town, because we know we've already allotted this and this, pretty much. These two are already allotted in the contingency. We think they're gonna happen, possibly. So that only leaves us now 100,000 to cover both the town and the school's needs. So that spoke to something like what I was talking about, capping it somehow, you know, like how do we manage
And I was
this?
agreeing with you on the capping,
Right.
and we gotta stop at some point and get, you know.
I mean, I think if the health insurance is, we know,
Set.
that's gonna be set. We assume electricity, we have a pretty good handle on now. I mean, if anything, it works in our favor if the public fee, whatever, the 30% added onto our bill gets taken off. But is that already accounted for in their number?
So both
Before we-
sides that,
Sorry, before we go any further, this wasn't decision. I wanted to get
I
this
know, I'm
tonight
just
so we
trying-
could talk
yeah.
about it later down the road, just to get
Yeah.
the numbers in the head. So go ahead, I'm
Because
sorry.
I mean, I just know that so we were still working off of, like, the added special ed money that we added in was based on pretty much knowns, like, they're just not 100%. So there's
Yes.
still always going to be more unknowns that come in. And
Yes.
there could be some that go
Agreed.
out.
Correct, there could be
But-
some that come back to the school.
But it
Yes,
comes down
yes,
to, let's
there's an
scroll
unknown.
back, scroll down. Down the other way, up, I don't even know what the heck. Now we're still at a 4.32 weighted.
Yeah,
We're getting to a point of no pass.
I know.
So this is where
I'm
I
thinking out loud.
know.
And we're
I'm
all
just
thinking
trying
out
to,
loud. Yeah, we're all thinking out
I'm
loud.
just trying to
yeah.
say, once we get here, now
Yeah.
the reverse of this is, where we're gonna have resistance is, the town looks really good right now, because we just took 600,000 out of their
we took,
budget.
yeah, we took the
So
contingency out.
they're just gonna say, hey, the town's at 3%, and the
Yeah.
Board of Ed is at 4.32 weighted.
Yeah.
The real number is 5, if you looked at it the other way. So we're gonna meet resistance on this line.
Does it do better to go back to the 220 out and put it more in contingency?
I think so too. To me, I feel
I mean,
that,
I was saying
That was a-
400 anyways, not 620.
that's my.
You and I settled on the same number. This is the
Yeah.
same number you thought about.
Yeah.
This really is the
It's
same
just
number.
different
Yeah, but
ways of
instead of
getting
giving
there.
single 20, we
And
give
I think he's
400.
getting-
Right. The only difference in this, Eileen, is the number that you and I were talking about,
Yeah.
is how you're gonna cap or handle the contingency on the backside. Because in the past, what we said is, we're writing the check
Yeah.
on special ed.
Yes.
There is no boundaries.
Yeah, but we're not
Rosa
gonna
didn't
have
want
extra
that
revenue
anymore.
that
Rosa
we
said,
had.
I don't
Correct.
want that, we're not doing that anymore. So we're not doing it anymore. So
But-
now it comes down to, it goes to the regular appropriation. So now it's saying, it's not a yes when it comes to us. It has to go through a process and you might get a no.
But that's not possible, right? We will never say, we
Well-
can't say no, right?
You can say
Well,
no.
you can say no.
We
They would
can
just
say
have to
no.
fund
They'd
it.
have to take it out of some other part of their budget.
And
They'd have to
understand
find it.
this too, you might change the Board of Selectmen in
And
this
you-
election.
You might change the Board of Finance.
So if you change the Board of Selectmen to a certain point, they're gonna say no. If it flops from one party to the other, it's gonna be a no.
True.
Well,
So-
no, I mean, not necessarily, you never know. Not
I don't know, but
necessarily.
it has a better chance.
Well, also, let's not forget, this board this board has a high percentage to completely change.
Right.
There's
This
4
board
people
has
up.
2 people coming back.
Correct, so 4 people, that makes a different swing too, regardless of what happens on the selectmen. So I'm just, everything that he's doing is trying to set it up, like that we're trying to set it up for the following years when this
I just
election year
wanted
is
to
tough, you know?
explain it because there was a lot of pieces that changed.
Yeah.
We've never had the Board of Ed come back to us after their budget and say, these are real needs.
So-
And we forced that too. That was
How
part
it
of our
handled- I mean,
communication.
how was it handled in years past? Did it just kind of, I mean, it's hard, when I started paying attention to all this stuff was the year that it was, the accounting practices had allowed that it could be spent the next year, and then there was the $500,000 a town
How it all
appropriations,
came
so
about is when I did a study, I found a lot of money that was, Bob wanted 300,000 in a contingency over here, there was
Yeah.
200,000 there. So we weeded that out. So we got rid of that weeds, okay?
Yeah,
Now it comes down to how do you manage it in affordability. And the thing is, I think what's happened is, and that's part of what bothered the Board of Ed, and we're going to talk to them on Wednesday, is they knew some of these students were already going in, but because we had said
only if it was
100%, they held
yeah.
to that, and then they started the gate
We
where
never
they're,
said 100%.
Brian, I know,
We
but
kinda
it's
did. We said we
nomenclature.
wanna- we want
Anything
you-
you know about.
The ones that, but
Look,
I think it was
we'll just, I gotta get out of the way. However, they got like 23 already going today, right? There's another
Yeah.
5 or 6. Of those 23, what's the odds that they're all gonna come back next year? It's not 100%.
No, it's not 100%.
There you go. So it's not 100%. We just got off that point.
No,
So
that's
what's
not
the
fair,
budget?
that's not
It
fair.
is, it is.
No,
The
no,
fact
it's
that
not
they
that
said
fair.
They should have put that information.
But I do think, though, they got behind the 8 ball. I think they were starting, and part of their craw really is, they would start the thing behind the ball.
Yeah.
I'm sort of agreeing with you. I thought it
Which
worked,
is what I
I
said.
understood the process. Then I did go home at night saying, boy, we made a bad deal for the town in a way, because all the risk was on our side, no risk was on their side.
Correct.
Yeah.
So from a business point of view, I left every meeting saying, if I was this my business deal, I was on
Bad
the wrong
business deal.
side of this.
And what you were.
But this is children in special ed, so that's
Right.
soft as a thing.
I agree. And then the other problem too is you can't help, and I know this is just, I'll be the unpopular opinion person because I generally am in life. You can't help but ignore that we're all sitting here and we're trying to figure out, how do you move the town forward? How do you, instead of Band-Aid things? And we're all sitting here trying to be creative and figuring out how to take care of our town while we still have this huge issue that kind of does wipe away most of what we do for the town, because we're always going special ed and education and the Board of Education budget. And it's not about special ed, it's just that budget always keeps it in the back of our head, but you can approve that, but what's gonna happen here? What's gonna happen here? So we have a lot of players in this
The
that we
problem
have to
comes down to
figure out.
affordability.
Correct.
Right, the affordability to the town. And if you really look at the balance of the budgets, and Eileen, I know you're sitting there trying to really think, the balance of the budget is the bigger half's on the Board of Ed side
Correct.
than it is on
It
the
always
town
has.
side. We also have been privy to the town numbers down to the point where we can talk line items. We got Marcia every month here. We've squeezed the town line items, pretty much the lemon out of the juice. I mean, we've pushed them down. Marcia does this every month with her departments. How do we save money? How do we capture money at the end of the year? The nut is gonna come in the Board of Ed budget. And the problem is, again, when we're hovering over 4, which doesn't pass, and the town's gonna be low 3s,
Yep.
that's gonna be a problem, because we split the budget. I never
Right.
liked that, to be honest with you, but we split the budget voting. So this is a number we have to be cognizant of.
Right.
So,
But I
in,
agree with what Brian's saying, and that you need to see the true number. The town needs to see the true number of the
So-
budget, and we have to allow that.
so Eileen, you're sitting there and you're thinking, I know, but what would you suggest? I mean, this is totally no before, what, I couldn't find a way away from this number. I played with them all
Did you
weekend.
put the 220 back in?
Yeah,
I
the
think
220.
it's
I
just
mean,
20, because they had both talked the other meeting about around 400.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
So
I
that's
think
it.
400 was what we discussed.
Now
the other
scroll
day,
down,
too.
and does it look better now?
no, it comes down to, it's still at 4.13, we're still gotta push a 4.13, but now we have 300 in the contingency, which 200,000 gives us flexibility, that has to go through a process.
It does.
So,
That-
yeah, so that line item says both town and Board of Ed unexpected needs.
Yes,
So if we were to
correct.
split that line
500.
item contingency in half, then there's potentially $100,000 that.
Potentially.
Potentially.
But it needs to be said, though, it's not the guarantee now, it has to go
Yeah,
through
yeah.
the process. We said basically anything above was 100% guaranteed.
Yeah.
But my scared point is, and again, in looking at these, I do fear if the selectmen changes their thoughts.
Yep.
I don't know how they're gonna react. I
Yeah.
don't know,
We won't know.
So,
go ahead, Mihi, the floor is yours.
I think.
This was for
I-
discussion, so.
Absolutely, no, so I'm glad you did this, because I think at the end of the day, we have to kind of have, to all your points, that transparency is great, what they're spending is what the town needs to see, and we also need to have this clear cut, right? But, if things go up and down and it is an unknown, it will come to us. And then we only have $100,000.
Potentially, we have 2, but 100, yes, if you were to really say out the gate, splitting it
Yes.
fairly right now, that's what you
Yes.
have. Because we did designate for the police dispatch, and we did designate.
We did.
So, I mean,
And-
fairness is, and that's why I wanted to include the contingency on this when we plugged and played, so you could see how it rolled.
And there was a high probability that Chief said that it might be a part-time. It might not need a full-time, so that also pushes back into.
We're basically saying that 170 plus 220, 390,000.
Is the cut from
Is
their
the cut.
true ask. Not, from their original ask, we added in money for the medical, and we added in money that they brought to us, so they had a, and it was, that wasn't like padded numbers or fudge numbers. This was health insurance, that's a definite number now,
Yeah.
as definite as we can get it, the 489, which changes nothing in their operational, that 489. I mean, that's nothing they're doing anything with, they gotta pay it back to the town, as a matter of fact, the way Marcia says it. That money, they get billed and they pay it back to the town, we pay the premium. And then they have a 620,000, which was pretty much most, you know, Marcia, can you read the percentages to help out, because that'll help Brian out a
Yeah,
little.
but that's gonna happen.
No, I mean on the sheet, on the sheet that we have, there's percentages of what's going in and what can go out. That you gave me, you gave me a sheet from their Board of Ed presentation, Marcia,
Oh.
that had 62011, that's six,
Their budget, you mean?
that one sheet that they get, extra sheet that showed the 3 buckets.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
okay, as long as it's all.
They had probabilities in there, what are the
Yes,
numbers?
they're all over 90.
Yeah.
I think the lowest one was like 90.
I think the third bucket was
The
where it was
lowest was
90%.
90, one was 95, one was 95, one was 99.
Yeah, that's
Oh, there.
gonna happen.
Right, no, I agree. I'm telling, and this is for discussion and for y'all to think about. This was the number I had thought and Marcia had looked at and how it fit the best way.
Well, here's the question, the first question I don't know the answer to, maybe you guys know better. This has a 390,000 reduction to their budget,
Yes.
and their budget already has $200,000 of counting on savings in turnovers, right?
Which they,
Which they've had carried for the past 4 years
And they
now,
didn't
5
This
achieve
years.
it the last two.
this year
They
they
achieved
Oh,
it
they're
this
now
year.
getting
achieved
to
it
it?
this year,
Yes.
last year they didn't.
Yes.
So the first question to me is, are we comfortable that a $390,000 reduction from their budget is a reasonable, whatever, is a reasonable amount to count?
I don't know.
I don't
You
either.
want
We have
the
to find-
truth? I will tell you, and I'll tell, and I told Eileen, my gut originally was it could handle that. I mean, I did tell you that. That was my gut. But I can't tell you any pressure
You guys
points
say-
of
You know
what-
better than me, that's why
I
I'm
think,
looking
I
at you
mean,
guys.
but I can't tell, Eileen, I can't give you a,
Well,
this, and
they-
this.
They did find 167,000 in savings when they were put to the,
But
right,
it was
so.
it was a budget freeze, so, I mean,
But
it
listen,
meant they didn't spend on some, they're kicking things down.
Right, we
Agreed,
still
agreed.
need to spend maybe.
Agreed, but let's say about Xeroxing or copying, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
There's, I do think that every budget has room, and the room can be thin, but there is room. And our job is to make sure that everything aligns and we get it passed and we plan for the future and everything. So I guess for us, from my seat, I think that there is room. We just have to ask them, where can they?
No,
No.
see, that's not how it works with Rosa and the group. We gotta give them a number.
Yeah,
We've
you
done
just
this,
give them a number.
we've done this dance many years. We've said, gee, what number can you come back with? And the response back is, we have to fight for everything we think our children
Right.
need, and you have to figure out a dollar amount you can afford. I've always liked that route. That's my way forward. Hey, what if you did some things, what could you come back? So the way it's happened now is, we would go back to the Board of Ed and say, you gotta lose $370,000 out of your budget. They then come back and say, this is what we're planning on taking out. Now, what's happened, which has caused some issues in the past, which Brianna brought up, is we did this, we positioned it around, and then there was $80,000 annuities given to the administrators after the sky was
But
falling.
again, well,
All right,
No,
we're-
this was
it was
Well,
real.
let
a
me
dean
bring
of
up
students,
some-
it was a dean of students, and it
Well,
was
no,
something.
he's bringing up the 2019.
Oh.
I'm
Why?
bringing up I brought up the Dean of Students again, where we all sat there, the budget failed, we came back, even though we know we don't have any power over what they actually, we heard at all the resounding Dean of Students, everybody said that wasn't necessary, so we just reduced it by that percentage, and then miraculously the Dean of
But in
Students
fairness
got
to Eileen, if we
Dean of
settle
Students
on
got
that number, even if they come to us and say, they're gonna do this, and this. It's ultimately up to them on what they wanna do. So if they wanna find, and it's what you're saying, if they wanna find room in another area to get a dean of students in, that's their choice.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, right? Am I
Yeah.
missing the
Yeah.
point?
So, I think the,
0.7%.
This is where
What did, how much is it?
0.7%.
we're at, is the point of, what point, and this, see, I don't have, like my gut said, that's probably a good number, but I don't have a definitive of what they can do.
What do you guys, because just you guys have been around more and have more exposure to, what do you think about 390 cut? Is it
I mean,
Is it in the realm of,
yeah, it's in the realm of what's happened in the past. And I mean, it is true that when budgets get to a certain point, they don't pass.
They
I mean,
don't.
we have the historical data to prove it. Voter turnout's really crappy on referendums, and we know that a lot of times the people that show up to vote, unless there's some big push in the community, are the people that don't want their taxes to go up at all.
Right.
So
There's 1,000 no
it's
voters. No
yeah,
matter what you do, there's 1,000 no voters. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if that's 2%, 1%.
yeah.
It's,
And a
the-
good vote is 4,000 people showing up.
it's the
That's-
400 to 500 voters that are
Yeah.
gonna change this.
Correct.
I do
And
believe
honestly,
that.
like I would rather put out a budget that has a better chance of passing than have to go back and cut it.
Correct.
Because
That's
I
worse.
think the cuts, you
Are
end up
worse.
taking a bigger cut because you have to move the needle more.
You have to.
I hear that, I'm not comfortable saying we know that they're gonna, and by the way, the 4.8 one I got is 100.
So to give you a little bit more history though too, is we've actually put money on top of the Board of Selectmen a couple of years when we thought it got cut too much.
That's correct.
So
we
the
did.
Board of Selectmen
Yeah.
came
We
in
did.
with a cut, we've added back in 200,000-300,000
Yeah,
That's
in
right.
prior
We
years.
gave, like-
So we have been fair on that side of the scale when we could have been.
but then
And the
we don't
BOS
know if
cut
the
this
board
year
is
was
gonna
really small.
change. I guess for us to plan, we have to be sure that they're taken care of. So, I'm trying to educate myself this weekend, and I just went to every town around, not every, but a
This
few
isn't,
towns around
this
us.
is not an easy decision. This
It is
becomes
not,
not
yes,
an easy
yes,
decision.
but every town is spending equal dollars on their Board of Ed, right?
Yes.
And their year-over-year percentages, so I have a few towns, 4 towns here. If you just look at the percentages, the education, Board of Ed is going up 4.41%, 3.97.
Yep.
Ours is 4%, so it's, you look at the percentage of the total budget, you see that the number is right there, right? So-
I looked at all of the Durg A's, which
Yes.
is the big spenders too as well, and all of them average 4%.
Right,
They went
right.
from 3.7 to 4.2, and I have a chart at home of it, like a
Right.
printout, like with the different things. So we're in the ballpark right now of where.
Right.
We
So-
really are.
To me, I think the our town, I don't think it's only the Board of Ed. I think the operating expenses across the departments, and every department that's 500,000 or more is in this list here. And you will see that they're going up 8%, 9%.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
if we have these 5, 7 departments going up 8, 9% year over year, if you look at the average, we will never be able to stay under 4%. So I think there's both sides of the,
However,
we gotta figure both sides too.
In the past, I don't think other departments have gotten the consistency of the Board of Ed. So if you were to draw the line of the Board of Ed versus the town overall, which I have that graph somewhere, you'll find the town lags the Board of Ed. So speak to your logic, they've always seemed to have a little bit higher than the town. Very few years is the town
percent.
percentage overall. You're
Right.
looking at departments which are catching up too, but if you take overall, I think you'll find that the town always seems to lag the
behind.
school, as a general rule.
Town grows slower than the school.
Yes.
And there are a few,
Correct.
there are.
And there's reasons for
Yeah,
that.
it's the
No,
school's
I'm
a
not
bigger
discounting it.
operation
I'm
than the
not.
town.
Yeah,
You
and there
know.
are some anomalies, like I think Parks and Grounds pulled some stuff that had been in capital into operating. So
Yes.
there are a
3
couple
times,
of big
yeah.
numbers that made that number.
17,000 to
The
clean
number
the
big
fields.
number there.
Yeah, the clean,
Yeah.
Yeah, the clean up
So
fields, so,
that jumped their budget significantly, so that 9 is not a true 9% increase, it's because something got moved from capital to operating. That's not the case with all of them.
Correct.
And-
That one.
and your other two, I'm willing to bet, like if you look at police and emergency, right? And I don't have this number, like, so don't think I do.
Yeah.
I'm looking to bet if you look at the population growth 15 years and you take 10 years and then you take the last 5, I think you're gonna find the population growth in the town has grown significantly.
So I went to US Census, I don't know, and maybe there's another place that I need to go to, but I looked at that and the population has not grown that
It
much.
hasn't grown a lot. And
Yeah.
because
I have data, I
The
have
school,
data
last
here.
I checked, I thought the enrollment was down in the school.
Yeah.
I did a study on the
Okay.
population, and I think it,
Yeah.
in the last 2 years, it's gone up 2,000, I
So
think, in the
here,
last 2 years.
I have graphs here too, and I can
Okay.
share. So, 2019, it went up from 17,000 to 17.4, and it's been, from 2020, it's been 17.4.
Okay, so,
And this is Nielsberg,
Yep.
US Census Bureau.
so when you look at that number,
Yeah,
every 500 you need to add a police officer is the ratio.
right, right.
So that's what I'm saying, if you want you, so,
No, and I'm, listen,
no, I'm not
trust me.
arguing, I'm just discussing, so don't.
I'm looking at other towns and we're spending less than the other towns. Our budget obviously is 90,000 right now, so it's not that. But, there's 6 million, 5 million upwards everywhere.
Okay.
So it's
So-
not that we're spending, I think the idea is that we do need to know what our projected is for the next few years. If it's going to be at the same rate and revenue is not going up, which the grand list,
It's tough to grow that.
yeah,
All
so,
they need big numbers to
so
move
how
the
do
numbers.
you then sustain
Our debt
that?
is one of the things, and Brian looked at that, our debt is one of the things, our debt service money is going down
It'll go down in the next 2 years.
in the
then go
next
back
2
up.
years. So
Then
that's,
go back up.
but then we might have to go back up, but
It will.
we are dealing with the debt that we're handling, so
that
that
is
does
going
come
to-
down. But that's why it's a fine line, and that's why even this number is a fine line of what is the number? I mean, I don't know the number.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's
Originally,
hard,
like I
it's really
said-
hard, it's really hard. How do you?
I
get
don't
to-
know and maybe Marcia, you know, what's the 170 that the Board of Selectmen came up with? What was the rationale?
Just affordability.
Same
See,
thing.
that's the same thing where we're at, it comes down to affordability.
I'm of the opinion we should ask them. They are the ones that are, they have a full finance team, they have.
It
But-
went so
but
bad
that's-
last year.
See,
But that's the
I can't
problem,
tell you.
Naheed, when we ask, and that's been the problem, and it's a real problem, is I've asked that privately even too, is like, you know, what, is there something, like, if we're looking for 200, is there a program or something that would be 170? Because we could then easily agree to 170 instead of 200, or is it 140? And if it's 140 and it doesn't affect a lot of things, then we could do, you know, whatever, we can work, but the mantra has been, we're asking for everything, it's up to you to tell us affordability. And when I spoke a little bit about operations, I got told, we're not even talking about anything in operations here, right, we're moving on. So I think you gotta sort of go with, we're looking at 390, and I don't know if that you can do whatever, 390, come back to us. And we've done that before, right, where we've said, we're looking at 390, come back.
And we're putting in,
But we've added in your extras, so you're not dealing with, you're not behind the
You have
eight
the
ball
full
all the
control
way.
now, you have the full control, you have
Yeah.
the,
This is exactly what you said on Monday night, so we've
Yeah.
listened and here you go.
Within reason.
Within reason,
Yeah,
within
Well, it's
reason.
affordability, within reason and
Within
affordability.
reason
Yeah,
and
because,
affordability.
I mean, they're.
Their ask is less.
620, yeah.
Yeah, their ask is less.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at that slide and those 4 student, or it's a 99%,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, this is, but that's why we,
Yeah.
in March I talked, we moved to 621 in, but it comes down to affordability.
Yeah,
And managing your budget. And you do have a $55 million budget.
Right.
But now, they don't have to worry about this and that, because they want to control, so now they know this. So now, if they come to this number, they set up at the beginning of the year, there may be a position that they want to change, there may be some kind of strategic move they can move out of the gate to get to this number, instead of
Right.
being mid-year and dealing with something like
Yeah.
a freeze. There may be something now that they say, this was, like Brian went through the capital list, this is a need, there's a need, and this one here, we gotta sort of do something with.
And
Alright,
to,
I'm convinced.
to what you said, to your credit, so the population hasn't changed, what, 5,000 per every, you know, what'd you say, 500 people, that's one police officer, so you do that
So
math,
EMS too.
that's 35. So we only have 32.
we
They
have,
asked,
we have 37, but 4 are in the academy.
correct,
So
Which
that's
doesn't-
not-
isn't a
yeah,
promise.
And then 3 at the SRS
Right.
She
schools.
really did.
right.
I now know
So,
the numbers.
right, so when you think about it, but they, you know, so you've got 4, and then you know that you've got maybe some retirements, and you've got everything else, and you know,
Yes.
they asked for, you know, the police commission asked for 4, Board of Selectmen gave them 1, and we added 1 back in. So I think, you know, like, in terms of affordability, everybody's getting something kind of off the
And I
block.
think that's the idea here. We have to do that with every department.
Every department.
There has to be some sort of, yeah.
The problem lies in what I said earlier. We have privy knowledge to the town side. We have Marcia every month going through
Correct.
Oh, but
departments.
the heat schedule is showing more, and I really like that.
Right. Oh, we're going through the heat schedule next,
A
right?
part of it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, we're privy to those line items more. We don't know,
Yeah.
but the way it's presented, we can't get there from here. And I don't have an answer, but I think this is.
I think the answer is hard for, we're all doing the best guess right now, and hopefully by the
Well, you know, it's 6 people that are trying to make the best decision,
Yes,
and at the
yes.
end of the day, it's really the town that says,
Yes.
this makes sense or it doesn't make sense. And,
Yeah.
you know, like Eileen said, and it's always been, you know, the 6 years I was on the board, the goal would be to present a budget that passes.
Yes.
Because
And that's the foremost.
and I know, Brian, what you're saying, but
Well, I
When it
still
came back-
fully
when it-
expect to
when it came,
submit a budget that passes,
when
I
it
mean, that's our
came-
job.
when it came back,
Yeah.
failed, you know, to come back and cut, you know, you don't just come back and cut
Yeah, no, no,
50,000, it
that's-
doesn't work.
So here's another
And that
thought
it makes it a
to
lot
throw
worse.
into the table to take home with y'all tonight is, if we leave this to cut the way it is and we tell them they gotta manage it this year, you're gonna have a new superintendent next year. So they might have new initiatives we're gonna have to fund that might cost us more than what we wanna do now. They might be change something to say, hey, this is the way. So now you're looking at, do you leave it at here and tell them this is what they gotta deal with this year, like a consolidate year? I don't think it'll hurt bad, but we might have a new superintendent comes in here and says, I've looked at what you're doing here in Brookfield, and I don't know, I'm not an educator, but we really need to do this, and this is gonna cost us $400,000
But
bucks.
at that point, they may need to say, but maybe we don't need to do this in order to do
Exactly.
this. And
Correct.
so they shift within the
Or
budget.
maybe they
Right,
come,
I'm just trying to say is,
or maybe they come
I
with
think,
better ideas as to how to save money. And
Yeah.
maybe that new superintendent isn't
I
as
think we
expensive
can
as the
play it to that.
superintendent.
If,
I'm
I-
thinking
I-
out of the box,
yeah,
Right,
I'm
if
just
there
trying to
should be
think
savings,
of where.
you
I
would
don't know.
hope.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And from what I heard today about what sometimes happens, it sounds like that there may be, and this is just a discussion, me asking, so what happens now? That they set up for an interim superintendent, and it might make sense to have an interim until the next board comes
They
in.
did that one other time with Ralph.
In November, and then set up for the next board to do the process to find a new superintendent. So next year, we may not have the new superintendent.
So and then too, also, if you really break it down, the intern probably is not gonna make what John's making. So there's gonna be a savings
gonna
on
be
the
a savings
salary
there.
line and a benefit
And
line.
I
But then
think,
the
I think
interim
what
would
convinced
start
me
the budget
like a few minutes back was that
With
if we
next
have to
year's
manage
budget
our
process,
budget,
yeah. And
they
probably
also
no
have
new
to manage their
initiatives,
budget.
and-
Yeah.
And it's everybody, you know, it's their, we all have our responsibilities. We're gonna manage the town, they have to manage Board of Ed, and if 55 million, you know, I'm on board now.
And then someone was asking about what would they cut, they said generally that after the budget process, when the budget passes, that's when the Board of Ed gets together
Resets.
and says, this is what we have, now what are we gonna do?
But we've
Yeah.
ran them through the exercises of what if we cut 400,000, what if we cut 600,000? I don't know if it was ever that high.
I remember
I
that,
think
there was
we've
like
done
the
that,
tier
haven't we?
one, yeah.
We've done a thing,
We've done
so-
tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and they
Yeah,
would
yeah.
say, this really affects, you know,
They-
crayons, and then this affects teachers, and then that
Right, right.
affects something. They've done that, we've done that before.
Yeah, yeah. I think this itself, 4.81% and 4.13% itself is not going to pass. They have to be below 4, there's no other way the budget.
No,
No.
I'm okay with going a little bit above 4. I am okay,
You
a
are?
little bit above 4,
Yeah.
as long as it makes
The
sense.
thing that passes, maybe I'm wrong, the thing that passes doesn't pass is how much is my tax going up?
Yeah.
It's just not how much more is the Board of Ed spending. That might not
No.
like people, but if their tax increase is only going up 3, and we'll get there, they would be,
It's the
I'm
middle.
gonna disagree.
okay, you've been around more than me.
Respectfully
Yeah.
disagree, is when I've tracked it, it's that Board of Ed number. The town tracks below it. Once the Board of Ed number in the past 10 years touched that 4% twice and it got voted down twice.
For
The
some
town
reason-
side was 3, so we were under 3,
Right.
under 4, Brian, overall.
What were we last year? We were like 6, weren't we?
I'm thinking we've,
What was Board of Ed, what's the Board of Ed budget year to year that we presented last year? I thought it was 6%.
So last year, 4.05.
4.05, yeah.
Actually, no, this year, 4.05, last year, 4%, and I don't know why.
It's 4.99.
4.99.
Remember, I worked really hard, so I didn't start with a 5.
I'm okay here. I'll be honest with you, I'm okay here at 4.13.
They've been 4 for the
The
last
thing,
3 years.
I think, first of all, I've been pretty quiet. If we think that they can take out 390
I
and
don't
run their
know.
business, well, rough, I think it's in the ballpark of reasonability. It's gonna not be easy, but it's not ridiculous,
Right.
right? Then 4.81, which is really, from what they're spending, 4.13, we have to advertise that a bit.
Agreed, that's why it's
Right.
on here, that's why
Right.
I
We gotta
agree with
advertise to
Eileen,
the
that's why it's
town.
on there. Yes.
Right? 'Cause
Correct.
that is
And
a
that-
fair thing.
On the April 1st when we're talking,
Right,
that's
that's
what
gonna be
we're.
really
talking
important there. I think that's what they're gonna spend, and so that's how we should, I wouldn't wanna play games to make the number look different. So I like-
Okay, I am
like-
not following it
I'm
either,
not
can
following-
you?
yeah.
If we think that they're really gonna spend, I can't read the absolute number, you know.
55,829,000.
Yeah, then that's the number we should use. We shouldn't, lower their number more and put more in contingency, so when they overspend it, we give them more money. I think
So
that's
you're saying
disingenuous.
that you agree with the stuff on the top?
I agree with as this is, now, again, once we put the whole thing together, if we're spending too much, then we might have to come back and talk some more, but I
No,
think this.
we're not there, we're not spending too much right now,
No.
overall, we're not spending too much.
I
So-
may respectfully disagree. I don't
You
know if I
can.
do. But I think this looks reasonable. 390 seems like a pretty tough,
It's a push number.
yeah, it's a pretty tough number. Now,
But-
there's places
55.
they can look.
But we have a lot of unknowns coming into, like you were saying, the interim superintendent and other things that might make
Yeah.
that 390 not
There's a
sting
lot
as
of
much.
things. They're gonna put a
right?
climate coach in, they can
You
defer
can-
that for 6 months. There's a lot of things they could do.
Right. And
So
if you're gonna
it's-
do it, especially with this
All
interim
right.
phase,
So,
for colleagues'
so
sake.
can we agree to this, that we can move off of this? Can we agree to
Right.
this, that, and I don't know, do you wanna do it, I can do it, do you wanna write to Wendy and say, this is what we looked at, 390, come back to us on Wednesday?
Yeah.
And come back with an argument that makes, I mean, I don't know if we can afford it, I'm just saying, come back, we've exercised them before, Brian.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. I just
So,
don't-
I mean,
We're,
come
we're
back.
talking about a 0.75%.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember 80%. Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
No.
a good point.
so
I agree.
Eileen, if you wanna reach out to Wendy and say, here's a number we're looking at,
But the whole, we're giving
You
fully
said
funding
that's
the special ed, fully funding the 11%,
yes.
everything else, yeah.
Well, we're not,
No,
no,
we're
you can't
not
say
fully
fully
funding-
funded special
we're not
ed,
fully
we're
No, no, we're
not.
funding,
We moved the money over, but we
Yeah,
brought it down because
yeah,
what we
right,
thought is
Right.
affordability.
Yeah.
So they are starting a little bit behind, but
Yeah.
what Naheed says, that's part of managing your budget too, a little bit.
Right, right. And I know, I think their ask for special ed was 620,000 and we're putting that in.
But we took 220 out, we backed 220 out of that.
But
Not
from,
special ed.
not special ed, from the
No,
overall budget.
I apologize, you're speaking better words than I am, yes.
From-
We backed it's on that line, but we backed 220 out of their overall budget,
Their
not
overall
special
budget.
ed.
Overall.
That they have to manage within.
Right.
Steve backed out 170 on his side,
390.
so it is a
390.
390 back out.
Which is almost 0.7.
Last year you
Yes.
kept calling it the perfect budget. So it's 390 less than their perfect budget. That's what
Yes.
you used last year a
Yeah.
lot. You didn't use it
Perfect
this year,
budget.
seriously.
It is 390 from their perfect budget,
Right.
because it is, that's their perfect budget, we're 390 below their
Yeah.
perfect budget.
And then,
And then we just put it to them, they come to us and we see. So now let's
but,
go, Go ahead.
but there's a cap, we're not just going
we have a
to-
contingency cap, which we talked
Right,
about. and
But
it's-
that's something that they need to fully
We're gonna have them here Wednesday,
understand.
yep, Wednesday we'll go
So
through
I
that.
think the responsibility for managing special ed is transferred from both, it's completely theirs. That whole contingency that we've had in the past is no longer,
It now has to go through without a rubber yes at the end.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean, and again, if it's a true cost, we gotta figure it out.
like
Okay.
every other department, we figure
We
it
gotta
out.
figure it out.
Yeah.
But they gotta manage within a little bit more than just on top of.
Right.
I don't know if I'd call it a contingency cap. I would say,
It's a well, I mean, the
I would
contingency fund is contingent, it's all in there.
if
And that's not just theirs,
they're
it's split.
overspending, we'll talk to you about it. I mean, I wouldn't commit to,
And I think if we're going to give them
We'll do our best.
their independence
Right,
and their
there's a contingency.
responsibility,
I-
there's
right.
not. There may be.
No, wait, what were you saying? If we're gonna give them their independence and responsibility,
Then the management and the ownership is in their hands. Back in the days,
But
we
I-
were being responsible for anything that came on special ed.
Correct.
Now we're saying, or now they're asking that they want it on their side, which gives them the independence and the ownership and that's.
And
I
Right.
don't wanna-
And
Just
Brian,
like
the
if you want
transparency.
Yeah, but I don't wanna say, I don't wanna go, I don't wanna say you're on your own,
Right.
right?
I agree with that.
Which
But I'm not
nobody
gonna
is.
also
I
say.
did, but I agree with you, I mean.
But I also don't wanna say, we have a fund for you as well.
Correct.
right?
Yes,
If
yes.
if you're
I
running into
agree.
problems, come talk to us.
Yeah.
But it's not
We're
a
not
total
holding
yes,
any-
but
we're
it's
not
not a
holding any money.
guarantee though,
No,
like we
so
talked about.
at this point, I'm going to say, just like every department has their budget approved and all, they're managing there. If there's something that is, if there's an emergency, something breaks down, something
Right.
goes wrong,
bring it up.
that's, so we'd be the emergency. We wouldn't be the, it would be like an everyday thing. It would be like, oh, we really need, there's something, we've had like 5 students enroll in this.
Right.
It's unexpected, not planned. They've planned whatever they could plan, whatever they,
Okay.
if something out of the ordinary came.
I think the difference is, today, if another student, special ed student came in, they'd say, I need money from you guys. Now, if they came, they'd say, another student came in, we'd say, well, what have you done to cut your budget before you come to ask me for more money?
Yes, not cut, but where you have the
Where have you,
savings.
where have you found savings?
Where have you found savings?
Right.
Not, because I agree
Yeah,
with
that-
Eileen, we
that's a better way to
can't,
say
we
it.
can't cut them, but where have you
No,
found
where- right, where have
savings?
you
If you
reduced-
have
What are-
savings, we
spending?
gotta put
What are all
that
the,
towards it,
what are all the
because you've
steps you've
taken
taken?
ownership.
Yeah,
Right.
what are all the
If
steps
it's-
you've taken?
if
to-
the
I
steps
think
I've
that's
taken
all
anyway.
about ownership at this point, and it's transfer of ownership from our hands to their hands, saying, this particular,
We're open to help, and it's your problem.
yeah, it's.
Well, it's all of our
It's
problems.
the town.
It's the
The
town
schools are
problem.
part of the town.
I,
No, but, no,
Part
but
of
the
our
point,
community,
the point
yes.
is that, the point is that if we're giving, so, I look at it 2 ways. If we're going to share the responsibility, we should have contingency that helps us share the responsibility. But if we're taking away contingency, then we can't share the responsibility because we've taken that out. So what I'm saying, tomorrow the library's AC breaks down, we will fix it. It's our responsibility, we will fix it, right? An emergency happens and something breaks in the schools, we will fix it. But that ownership is not ours now, it's being delegated.
But you might ask the library if their AC broke, okay, so maybe we don't do what you asked for, or we'll have to move it over to something else. Like,
But some of
okay,
these budgets are so tight, where are
Right.
they gonna find it?
well, it might be like,
that's
we're
the
gonna have
problem
to
on
take
the
the
town side, we
gable,
know that.
right,
I
we
mean,
know
that's
that,
what we
but like,
don't
it
know.
might have to be where, okay, you're gonna take the gable repair, and we're gonna have to put the gable repair and do that, and it's just, we could do that on the town side, it's just, we can't do that on the.
I think the reality of this is they wanted ownership, they're gonna get ownership, but I do think, and I do listen to Eileen, and it has, no, I do actually. And it has to sort of be, as much as I wanna say, and you know what I wanna say, it has to be a transitional period, where we have to almost.
Then keep half the contingency.
No, no,
No.
Brian's
No.
right, but they gotta see it on that side. I think it's right that what we're doing. I don't know the numbers necessarily right. That's a number I played with all weekend. Marcia, when I moved things around, that's a number that seemed to work, that seemed to make sense for whatever reason. I can't tell you. I mean, I'd like to tell you, but I'd like to. It's just,
Doing this is gonna cause them to start rebuilding contingencies into their plans.
I know that. There's gonna be reverse to all of this.
Right.
Absolutely. That's what we got away from, and they came to us to change, not we didn't change this on them. So
Right, so
we gotta transition.
we
We gotta figure transition.
Then the transition, the soft transition, it needs to then have, maybe they need to have contingency on their side, or, I don't know, I'm just thinking,
I think the
it's
question-
either this way or that way.
I-
The middle is,
I mean, I think this year there are going to be, like we've said, we've all agreed, there are hopefully going to be students that come back in district.
Mhm.
And so that almost becomes a contingency.
Mhm.
I think that the interim superintendent is very likely going to be a built-in contingency. And, I mean, the teacher turnover is an unknown. I mean, they hit it this year so far, but the year's not over.
Mhm.
Last year, they didn't hit it, years before they had. So I think there are those opportunities within the budget.
For them,
And I
internally.
think, I don't think we should close the door and say,
No, right.
anything that happens,
No.
we're on your,
We're here to
you're on
help.
your own.
I-
But I think
Agreed.
it's okay to say, look, where are you finding some savings in your existing budget? to offset any of these and then have a
Correct.
discussion. So,
Yes.
Exactly.
I'm in agreement with you.
100%. It's
Yeah.
not a full yes, it's just a what have, what have you
But-
done up till this point?
I think we gotta put the emphasis on though, like Nathan said, you gotta figure this out a little bit internally, a little bit first. You gotta, and we gotta hope that Casey is, she's come to us pretty strong on things. I mean, she's got it, and she's squeezed down too, I think, in her thing. We gotta hope she continues
great
that
job.
process.
Yeah.
And we get to that point where, and we get to the point where we're not building in contingencies, we get back to the point where we can live in harmony with both boards again in a weird way of figuring it out. But we're gonna transition now. They want it, we're moving. I think this is a fair number to try to reach to, send it out. Then if we did this, did you punch these numbers into our Board of Finance, overall?
I just changed, there were some other things that you had dealt with, I just changed contingency and,
where
Board
are
of
we?
Ed and 384.
For the mill rate of 384.
304.
So Brian, that was a number now you wanted to talk about, and since we're really just
Well,
talking
we're not there yet,
freely.
we haven't,
No, I know, I'm just saying, we're not there, but what does that number tell you right now? What, does that number scare you, or what are you?
it's higher than I'd like it to be, but it doesn't scare me. I mean, obviously, everyone said keep it under 4. I mean, I think in this environment, this is a tougher environment than we were a year ago, right? As you think of the seniors in our town, right? Last year, Social Security went up around 3.5, I think, and our increase was 3.87. This year, Social Security's gone up 2.5, and we're gonna be at 3.8, the same number. So we've made ourselves incrementally more expensive to seniors relative to their increases, right? So I don't like that. But we're not done yet.
No, I don't know.
Right.
This
So
is
I
all
would like, I
discussions.
would like to see, I would be happy if the mill rate, the increase in the mill rate was less than it was last year. That would be a goal of mine. We're not getting
And what was
there.
it last year again? I can't-
3.8, I mean, this is technically lower, but it's not, I'm sure it's
Okay.
lower. So, look, I don't like $200,000 of continues. That doesn't sound like enough.
Yeah,
I-
that's making me nervous too.
Yeah.
That
So,
number's making me
You
nervous.
know, I mean, I don't know if we've scrubbed everything full enough yet.
No,
Maybe that's
no,
where
we're-
we are, maybe 200,000.
We
is
haven't
somewhere we're
scrubbed
at.
yet. This
Right.
was an exercise, the biggest piece of this is the Board of Ed.
Right.
The rest is different
Right.
numbers that we can discuss. That's why I
Right.
wanted to get it out
I
now,
think we
so
got a
people
good-
thought about
Right,
it.
I think we got a good straw man for a Board of Ed number to continue our deliberations.
Perfect.
Right?
All right.
And we can see if they have input for us, it would be helpful.
So 2 more exercises tonight. Let's go through the Naheed thing.
And I haven't finished with the Naheed thing, but this is what I have found so
The
far.
heat thing, you got a thing.
You've got a thing.
You go on vacation and it's
And
out.
she gets a thing.
I get
So,
a thing.
Marcia, you can explain it better than I can.
And so, for the Naheed thing, this is the
Naheed
first-
rule.
This is the first time, and I really like the exercise, I'm learning a lot, that we're comparing 2024 actual to 2026 requests. And some of them, we know that there's discussed budget increases. So ammunition, we know that the 26 request is there. So what we're looking at is what is over 5,000 and over 10%. And
Or over.
and when it turns red when it is. So we want
Oh,
both.
okay, and, okay, yep.
We want both to be red. And here's the finance department, and we've talked about changes in the structure. That there were changes in the structure earlier in 2025, and then changes in the structure in 2026. So I thought that explained that. That
Well, it
in,
doesn't explain it, no.
I can,
It's things, that answer is things changed. That's not an explanation.
well, I can highlight
It's
this.
explainable.
It's
Yeah.
explainable that, and I can highlight it, I'm just trying to get it done
Yeah,
for
I
you
got it. Go ahead, go
guys
ahead.
tomorrow. And for assessor's office, I didn't need to do that one because it's not both.
Outside to services is the next one, right? Department.
So this is one, department-specific outside services, and this was very interesting, that, we have money for special projects for $3,000. As far as I can see, she said, last time when I asked her, well, there's different special projects every year, but they're a year after. But from what I can see, we haven't spent anything. Maybe there's different projects in mind, but we actually haven't spent that $3,000. And then the other thing that truth be told, I sent her an email at 4 o'clock and she left and she had already gone. The other thing is that one of the vendors, we spent quite a bit less. And why is that? Well, when somebody has a new building, forgive me if I'm probably get this wrong, but when they have a new building permit, we have to go out and take pictures and we have to do a little semi-reval there. And she has, for residential, 220 of those would be done. And I went back the last 4 years and the average is 110 a year for residential. So with that, probably, in my mind, we can take 5,000 out of that budget.
And if they need to come back because they actually get the 120 done and they need more money, then
Correct.
that's a discussion we have.
Correct, but that was kind of interesting to find out.
So is that out now or in?
So I didn't take it out, but that's what I'm thinking, that, subject to her coming back to me tomorrow, that,
Okay.
I did it at the end of her day. This one, looking at the software, we've spent it, it's just price increases of why it's, because we've had a lot of price increases here going forward, but we're spending each one of those, softwares. That, going down further, the, tax collector, that went down, never mind. That was the same change in structure, opposite as above. Postage, I can't tell, for tax collector postage, the same as.
Can I just take well, I don't know what we're doing here. Because if you're trying to use this to make decisions, then this is not anywhere near acceptable. If you're trying to tell us what you're doing,
No,
I
this
got
was,
I got what you're doing, you don't have to do any more. I don't know what
the
we're doing here.
analysis is taking it and turning it upside down. Did we go through this enough on the line level?
Right.
So the analysis is anything over 5,000 or
I got it.
10%, right?
But we
So
need to
this
do
is,
that.
but this is, did we analyze it properly when looking at it as a double check?
Okay.
Did we look, like that number 5,000, did we look at that and say,
So is it just because I missed it that I don't know?
this is a back check to the line items we've gone through to say, hey, is it valid? Does it make sense to us?
I
And when
got it. So
Marcia
I
went
must have
back,
missed it.
yeah, when Marcia went
You
back to
were-
that line item,
You were-
it was $5,000 on that line item.
Okay, I
The
wasn't
heat
in
had
it.
said, is
You were
there
on
money
vacation
in some of these
last
departments where we get 5,000, 2,000,
Yeah.
6,000, and it comes to $30,000, and we have a pot of money? She wanted us to analyze it.
But, yeah, this is how this is how I look at every year, right?
Right,
The-
so this was
large
just-
percent increases that drive a lot of money.
Well, that's what this is that exercise. We turned it upside down a little bit differently. So it's just a double check of the lineups, and probably 4 of these were in your questions, Brian. When you
Yeah, 'cause
went
I only
up,
took the biggest
and,
ones.
and your questions that you sent out to the board, they were some of them
Yes,
were already
yeah,
in
yeah.
there.
They're-
So
they're
this
the big ones,
analysis hits your questions. So you're right, you looked at
Yeah.
the budget a certain way, you picked it out, but this analysis is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, so, postage that I'm still waiting to meet, I need to meet with her, that I didn't get a chance today. So these two are interesting, pension attorney and bond consultant. These are based on how many questions we have. That if we took out 5,000 from each, and just knowing that we had less questions that prior year, that knowing that we may have to put money in again, that, but there's no set questions that we have for them. That, so like some of this bond consultant is, every year we pay for X, that, so possibly there's 5,000 that could be taken out of each of those,
Or 5,000 out of combined, 2,500 out of each.
5,000 each.
Yeah, but if we took 2,500 out of each, it'd still leave you a little room. We've got
Yeah,
5,000 more, that's 10,000. To talk to Naheed's points.
Yep. Personnel that, I'm just going, analyzing that, possibly we don't have enough in there, that,
That's the wrong way.
they're outside services, so, but the difference was just timing, that this is the actuary's report and the, for pension, the actuary's report for OPEB, and that year we didn't finish a complete set of everything, and so we're paying for it, this year.
That one didn't meet your criteria, did it?
It didn't meet my criteria, thank you.
Yeah.
These, I just have to go through those. I
Yeah.
was trying to get the
Okay.
ones I could get to quick. Software, it's all the same software. It's a multi-year fixed price, and the year end, that fixed price here.
But you keep showing us software increases of 30-40% a year. That's like crazy.
So this is this year over 2024, so it's 2 years. But yeah, it was.
One of the things, though, the ones in your question was the website redo. That was the big
That was
number.
on IT, the
Yeah,
website redo.
I asked a resource of mine about that, and he said they're often between $80,000 and $100,000 for websites.
So that was one, then one of your questions,
No,
Brian, it was a website review.
Oh,
Redo.
But again, it's town website and they have a lot of data
Right.
in there.
there's a lot of documents.
So Brian, this was a fishnet exercise.
Yeah,
That's
no,
all
this is the right exercise to do.
It's
I
a
like the
fishnet exercise, so.
And for this one, for example, I took out the website, but we were still over 5,000 after that. So I just have to analyze that, and that's got like 25 items in it. So I thought, I'm not gonna get that done.
And we had that line
real
about the code red anyway, that we were gonna talk to Steve about.
fast. Yep. That was a vacancy, so I'm still going through them. So, this was the flyover. This was, they put in money in the last 2 years for trees. They never had tree cutting in their budget, but they felt as though they needed some more control over that.
Didn't we have someone that cut them for free for us for a while? I think we had somebody that came and cut trees for us. for free.
Some
But they've never
grass.
used it.
They haven't used the 2025 money yet,
Okay.
and that's why Steve cut the 2026 budget.
Got it.
And I think that was the, so I'm
That's all.
trying to write it all up, but it's,
Okay.
So.
but I didn't see any more cuts so far, but I still have more to
Okay,
analyze.
so Brian, here, we're gonna go to this now. So the second part of this exercise, go to OPEB contributions.
All right,
So, here's Brian where you have a little room, and everybody has room, but here is where
Yeah.
you can make, so the town decided, the actuaries, we did not have to fund that. We had the discussion. Part of what I had Marcia put in there is 300,000. Now, you can decide, is 300,000 a number? Do you wanna make it 200,000 and move your needle down? Do you wanna make it 200,000, put 50,000 in contingency, take 50,000 out? I mean, that's a group discussion. It's less than what we've been funding over years, prior years. Because if you go to the left, there's prior years, we've been funding at 700,000, I think, each year.
from ours and the Board of Ed was funded,
Yes.
so.
So 700,000. So this, now the market is, we've all lost 25% of our money in the past 2
And
weeks.
that makes me nervous. And that's, I was saying that the other day too, like, this makes me nervous when we don't contribute. The future is also something that we have to plan for, we can,
Right.
so,
But this is a number that we can talk about.
Okay, so we're not doing that now, but there's something we can talk about. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying, these are all things to think about. Tonight was a get through
But I
capital.
don't have any data to think about that. Is there data on that?
Yeah, I can give you that, but essentially what the concern was, is that the total that we're funding has dropped by 700,000 something. And what if it goes back up? The 2 years we've got fixed of 2026 and 27, but what if 2027 goes back up to the 1.2 million mark where we are?
How do we catch up?
How do we catch up? How do we get that back?
We gotta see the data. I mean,
The data
is it kind of
is-
standard
and I'll give you the
pension analysis, or is it something?
No, it's not a pension analysis. What they give you, it's in our audit report, page 94. Marcia told me that gives you. But the weird thing is, we've gone up to 120% overfunded. Then the next year we've gone down to 90%. Then we've gone up to 110. Then we've gone down to 102. This is fully funding it. Then we've gone up to 110. We've gone back down to 104, say, and now I think we're at one. What are we at now? I think 110,
We're at
113.
110%.
110% funded. So the
And the
actuary.
100,000 would get us back to 100,
So
if you only put 100,000 in.
So it's not the percent funded that we're looking at here, it's the drop that,
The actuary said we didn't have to fund it this year. It would be okay not to fund it.
it
and
would
what
drop it
about,
by
and what about
700.
our general fund too? That's another question. conversation too, right? This and that, both.
I just gotta see.
Yeah.
That you can see, I mean, the data is all over, but I understand what you're saying, but the data jumps all over. But the actuary, who's supposed to be smarter than us, has said we didn't have, so Steve and the first selectman said they're not putting money in there. I was nervous about it. So there's 300,000 there now that, according to the actuary, is over cautious.
Yeah, but I'm with you about not underfunding, because if we have to go back to it, it's gonna be a huge hit to go from 0 to, Well, we
That's
need-
why
100%.
the money
Can
got
we,
moved.
can we use I don't know, I'm just, what is our plan for general fund, and can we do more there? And,
Well, it's all about moving the numbers. That's what it comes down to. What number are you comfortable with? Because we can add in and the number goes higher, but that makes Brian feel uncomfortable about where we were last year. And do we get to a point where we price ourselves into a vote no?
Right, but the general way I think we gotta do this is we gotta try to get, as best as possible, the right actual numbers in all this. And then if we don't think the budget's gonna pass, then you look at the levers that you can
Right,
run.
but that's why I'm showing you all these things.
But
that
I
can
have no
think
way to
about.
evaluate 300,000.
There is no evaluation.
There's
We're
no
putting in
evaluation.
700,000 every year. The actuary said we don't have to. This is what we had left over from the extra revenue and moving monies in between
So-
departments. This is the number that was left over of the
So you
extra
put it in
500. I put it in OPEB saying, because it was a concern
yeah.
that we talked
All right,
about.
well, if
So-
there's any data, let me look at data, or else I don't have much. Okay.
Page 94, like I said, the audit shows all of years past.
Of the annual report?
Of the annual report, it shows the funding level, the needed funded level, the percentage over. So that has 5 years worth of data in there, so you
Okay.
can look at
It's in
it.
the annual report, I can.
And then it'll show you, what I didn't see was consistency, Brian, when I looked at it. I really didn't, because it went, from 123 down below, and it just didn't make sense, but COVID hit, market dropped, the
Yeah.
fluctuations
Yeah, no, I
of
got
the market.
Okay.
So I think that number there, that's what we had left over from moving things around from like the buckets and the extra 500,000 in revenue. So I thought that was the best parking place right now for discussion. But Brian, you're right. We haven't decided anything, but this is
Right.
where, you couldn't have decided anything unless you saw that number. This
Yeah,
is
no,
a number you
yeah.
have to know about.
Right, no, I know about it. I've looked at this stuff.
So,
Okay,
so one of the thoughts in my head was that we need to kind of find 200,000 in the operating budget. That will bring us down by, or whatever, quarter, 0.5%. And then Board of Ed comes down, and then between the two of them, we get some room, and then we look at our general fund to see what is it that,
so now you're talking that, right? So we had 30,000 in cash capital we talked about putting in a reserve. Is that 30,000 cash capital part of that 200,000 in the move? I'm just throwing it out there
If we-
in the open box, that's
Yeah,
all.
right, so we can decide, do we put the 30,000 in as a reserve for the roof, or do we put it in contingency? So we
Or
can't
do you
put
take it out?
you.
Or you
have
can really take it out and
everything.
lower the tax.
Right.
Lower it, that's what I'm trying to say, is this is the levers that you were
Right.
talking about.
I agree.
What levers do we wanna pull?
Right, we're like a day away from doing that, aren't we?
Yes.
Okay.
We're way a day away, but we don't really have another topic tonight, so this was just topic
Well,
of
so-
conversation.
It's nice to have things to sleep on.
Okay.
Right,
Well, so, I mean,
go ahead.
to Heat's point, right? In the revenue area, I think you're using $1.2 million of one-time sources.
That is
Fundamental
correct.
general.
Yes.
So the way, I'm gonna say this just to make sure I still remember it. Whenever we have an excess in a year, we say we're gonna hold half in the general fund and we're able to use half.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think what's happened is in the last several years, because of ARPA, et cetera, we've never used our half. So we've got some of that built up,
Correct,
okay?
yes.
So, and we're gonna use 1.2 million, the current plan uses 1.2 million of that.
Not of that, no.
Oh.
But one-time revenue is 1.2 million. It's,
Bond money that we
premium.
got, premium bond money.
On bonds that we have to
use in 4
use.
years, right?
One part of it we have to use. And it is money that we've set aside for one-time sources. the Ricky principal, in
Yeah, that's what- that's what I was
capital
describing the
non-recurring.
Ricky
But it's
principal.
not from the general fund.
No,
Oh, maybe I said the wrong spot.
no,
What's
no,
the
not,
Ricky?
no, the Ricky principal, we take
So how
half,
much Ricky principal money do we have available to
2 million.
use?
right, 2
I-
point something. Cause we have
Ricky
800,000
You
saved.
just get a thing, he has a whole principal.
I'm gonna get a text,
Who's Ricky?
I'm gonna get a
Ricky
text
Ramos?
from Ricky,
He was on the-
and he's gonna say, stop using my name, like he did the other day.
Um,
He who shall not be named.
We saved some for next year and we saved some
That's what I
for the
wanted to
prior,
know.
To
so,
level out the bubble.
right,
So
so there,
Right, that's,
It is in your book, but I'm gonna pull it up on the screen, that,
I'm not. You just tell me, tell us.
no, which it's 800, 400, I think, if I remember right, but I don't know.
So we have in capital non-recurring, let's see, that we had 2.2 million there, and we were weaning ourselves off. Last year we used
Yeah.
2.1 million, but there's still 2.2 million left. We would use 1.2. That leaves us with $1 million that to wean ourselves a little more. And this is what we had intended when we were going to use the one-time revenue to cover the debt bubble, but then we have to stop using the one-time revenue a little bit at a time.
So with what's we got planned now, we have $1 million
For next.
available for
$1 million.
the rest of history, for the rest of time.
Correct.
Is there any reason that number goes up or down
Must
otherwise?
use.
If we,
That's
it's
the first
profit or
one.
loss,
That's the
that
first
if we have projects come in under budget in that cash capital, and we're not transferring it to something else,
Then it builds a little, so we
Um,
did build a little bit this year.
yes,
Okay.
but it's not gonna, it really built up high, we had put money in here for this purpose, in the COVID year, that, we
Yeah.
made a big transfer into here.
So, I mean, personally, I think that looks very appropriate. But that is a spot. You could say instead of use 1.2, make it 1.1, make it 1.5. I mean, that's complete flexibility what you do there. But
That's
I
right.
think this is a reasonable approach.
This is somewhat what we've been planning for 5 years. So this
Yeah.
has been the number we've dragged out. This was 5 years ago, and we had a lot of money, how we figured we'd plan it out and wean off of it.
Right.
So this is right along track of how we've
Right,
managed.
but 100,000 here or there.
No, it's not gonna make a
Right,
difference, I agree.
okay.
So if you're talking that, so go back now, Marcia, to, and we might as well put all the
So I think
cards
that's
up.
what you were asking, kind of. right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Go to your car assessment. Do you have that?
Yes,
Let's go to the car. That was one of Brian's questions, so we might as well cover it.
Which one?
Car assessment, the auto tax revenue.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Two
where some of the
questions
extra
on that.
money came from.
So,
Money came back.
but we put 500,000 into the budget. What did we put in?
468, 486.
486.
There's a 4 and an 8 and a 6. I
Yes.
don't know which way it was going.
I know the 4 was
So-
first. The beginning.
we have, oh, that's the old one. We have, this is all the car assessments, and it ties out pretty close to the grand list for cars. And not exact, because there's still continuing changes being made. And then we take, I took it into, and put it into a pivot table. So these are the 2025, 24, all the way down. This is before the new law that 2024 and newer has to be assessed to 85%, 23 is 80, all the way down. And then everything else is 15% or $500, whichever is lower. I had pulled out the $500 over here, and I can send you this, the data from the assessor. So this is the total amount that's assessed at 500. Here would be the assessment, again, a little bit different because of people that are partially exempt. And so that's what we were getting from taxes from the cars. This new
When you say
law.
that, is that what's,
No, over to the right is the number you're gonna get, the
yeah,
541.
but what, that 5.4 is a piece of
A piece of the tax,
this current year's
yes.
tax receipts, not what was assumed in the Board of Selectmen budget.
That this is in the Board of Selectmen's budget is this amount.
This is this amount, okay, got it.
Yep. And then we take, what this law that passed last week said is, okay, this is hurting everybody more than we anticipated. So let's let you do 90% if you do a town meeting and change everything, really quickly. This would be the new assessment. It's not, you can't just add 5% because every year is a different. So we go through that same exercise and multiplying it out. This is the stuff assuming it's still gonna be 500. This is the new assessment. This would be the new taxes. It's 541.
And we put 500 in our budget.
Yep, we put 500 in the budget.
So there's a little buffer too. So again, you're talking levers, Brian.
Yep.
So there's a small lever that's possible.
Yes, but
Now-
the email that you sent us, like, had my car on it, but not my husband's. We pay taxes on both cars. Was it missing?
No, where did that go?
Well, that, I did not audit that.
Yeah.
That was
KOTH,
41,000 and another $300.
That's not me. Find next. That's me. That's not me.
There's only three.
I don't know where your husband is.
Okay.
Oh, there's the, we solved the budget.
2016 out back.
We solved the budget.
Do the address.
All right.
I just thought maybe it was like a change, you hit a certain point and the percentages were the same, but his was not in that 15%, his was still in the 50.
Does he have it assessed over in Danbury or
No.
lower taxes?
No.
Just kidding.
Is that a thing people do?
He's not to be found. All right.
Which,
Which tends to how many else is not found.
yeah.
But we've tied this out that the bottom line, we did I can ask that the bottom line we tied out very close to the 1.92 that we had in the grand list. So I don't know if he's not in the grand list. That I don't have it on.
Okay.
We'll move on. So your other,
I'm
So-
gonna find out.
so your levers are, now, because we're talking for
Yeah.
future discussion, is it's 541 possible, we put 500 in. Your other lever is the Dan Dvorsitz column.
Yes.
We put 200,000 in sales that we don't really know where they come from. It's the magic sales, every year they show up.
Right.
So the lever decision is that 41 sort of fall into that bucket and we're only chasing 160 on the Dan Dvorsitz, or do you want to push that 41 in and say we're going to achieve this, and how do you want to, that's a lever to consider. That's all it is, it's not,
Let's put the real number in. No.
I'm asking, I'm not dictating, I'm asking, that's a lever.
Yep.
Brian had talked levers to move.
Yeah.
What levers can we move?
Right, we can
I
take the
just-
band number 100 or 300, that's a within our control.
I'm trying to show you the
Yeah.
possible levers that
Right.
I know of. So when
Right.
you go home and think tonight, these are levers of where do you want to go to on pushing this. That's all. I mean, this is just what I've learned in this year's budget of where we are and the levers. So we can look at OPEB as something to think about, go home and think about how do you want to manage that. I mean, I didn't feel comfortable with 0. I wanted something in there. Is 300 too much, too little? I don't know. It was a number that was left over, so I don't want you to think that was a
Well,
calculation.
if we have, I think, to me, the budget needs to be as tight as we can get to, and then we have room for capital, and we have room for,
Right.
at the end of the day, if we can make sure that the budget is as tight as we can, then we can do projects, then we can improve the town, we can grow the town, all that stuff. So 390, Board of Ed, 200 or something from operations, if we can. I don't know if it's possible, but if we get
Yeah,
that
but
number.
The offset lever 41 moves you to 160 on the downside, right? So if you were to pull that lever, if you were to do that, like Brian, then if you were to take the 30 out of the cash capital, that lever now is pulled to, you've taken now
So,
this, so you're
I don't-
reducing. But is that reduction worth the flexibility, I guess? I don't know. That's what I'm
So,
asking.
I just think differently.
It's
The
okay.
lever is a next game. I think my first step would be, what is it that we can cut, or what is it that we can trim that makes us tighter and more solid? Then we add the more then we add the fluff where we need to add the fluff. It's like, how can we go down
So,
and then
yeah,
we add the
I'll
fluff?
say no, so what you're saying is,
Pull these
we should look
levers.
to get $200,000 of real operational reductions
If
out
we
of the
can,
budget.
yes.
Now, I don't necessarily see 200, but maybe there's something there still maybe, so we should,
Come with suggestions tomorrow.
So, our
Any
budget is
suggestions?
for 55 million for the school, 45 million for town, right? It's 90 million, 90 million, right? Did I do the math right?
yeah, but the
The town is debt service.
yeah, the debt service you gotta pull
Oh,
out.
Debt
yeah,
service is
yeah,
8 million
so
or something,
that's
right? It's
eight,
yeah,
nine-
yeah.
9 million.
Yeah.
9 million,
What's
right.
the, what's
So
the?
it's like
town-
25
Yeah,
and-
25.
Yeah.
25 in there, okay. So then it's hard, then it won't be
200's
possible.
hard.
That's hard, then it's not,
Maybe,
no.
maybe it's.
I was
200.
looking at 45 and doing like
No.
0.5%, or, you know, 1/4%, 0.5%, so then it's
No,
hard,
you
then we
speak
need
of the
to.
same thing Brian was just speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
put it in and then you fine
Right.
tweak it.
Well, my little list I sent out,
Let's go through
There was-
that and be done then tonight.
well, I
Go
mean,
through
we
your
can
list.
get through it,
Yeah, we
through
can.
it, but it's, I mean, there was, besides the,
Do you have his email, Marcia? Brian's email?
there was like 14 line items that were over 10K. You're not gonna save a lot of money on things under 10K.
No,
Right?
I agree.
10,000 is a 10K, okay? So it's not, you know, you look at those and if those are good, you're pretty much there. Right, I mean, Marcia would find 5, 10, 20K in her.
In my mind, we're
school.
100,000 to 200,000 maximum pushing levers for grabbing revenue or taking some things out. But that 200,000 is only gonna move your needle 0.2 or something, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not.
But 200,000, putting that into contingency would make me feel a hell of a lot better having.
Yes.
I've read someplace, I probably read it, I know I read it, in Dan's pitch to the town last year, he said that we keep 0.5% of our budget in contingency as a
We did, that's,
policy or a
That
practice.
no, that was our practice.
So the fund
Okay.
balance policy has
Yeah.
it as a 0.5%.
And that-
So
To
we're
start
falling
with.
off that.
To start, it says to start with, and then it can be
Okay.
adjusted after, the trying to
So-
be flexible.
What Marcia and I were discussing is the OPEB, we don't pay to the end of the year as well. So we designate that for OPEB. So if we got into severe crisis, that is your secondary number
Oh.
as a backup to the contingency. But we don't want to touch it, we don't want to have it as in the bucket. But at the end of the day, if 7 emergencies came up that we had to deal with, there is that fallback of that's because the actuary said we didn't have to fund it. So, but we feel we need to fund it. In the back of our heads, we all know we should fund it. But if we hit 7 dominoes that fell the wrong way, there is still that bucket
Got it.
that we could manage through.
That's a good way to think of it.
That's like the true emergency.
And I think, Brian, nobody
Without
tonight
going
has
to
talked about this whole thing.
Without going to the
This
general.
schedule, you can see we fund about $1.2 million a year, based on the actuary. The second from the bottom number, or third from the bottom number, that we've been funding about $1.2 million a year. There was an anomaly that it was, the valuation was done at the very top of the market, and then the market crashed in the January of '22 valuation. And so, because the valuation was done at the top of the market, the question was, do we cut the, do we cut the annual payment? And we decided no, because we knew it was an anomaly of when it was valued. Now, this year it was valued again at January 1 of 2024, and the pension is still down, that we don't have to fund the 1.2, but with all this fluctuation that we've got now, it could very well be that we have to fund the 1.2 next year.
Which is,
Not next year, in 2028, because it's a 2-year valuation. And so,
which is a full percent on our budget.
What
So
are we
full
funding this
percent.
year?
So this year, the funding level went down by approximately 700,000.
So we're doing 500.
So we're doing,
As it
About-
says, 1199.
yeah, about 500 between the town, the school, and the Board of Ed. And I can look up those exact numbers, but how are we gonna make up 700,000 if it
What's
goes?
in the budget right now without adding the 300?
No.
It
Under for the
is,
town and what for, the Board of Ed has 0?
the Board of Ed has,
Couple hundred
very
thousand.
little. WPCA has $225. Board of Ed might have 100,000. I can look up what the
So
valuation
200.
says.
So we're skating thin.
Okay, all right, this is good, I'll look at this.
But that's what we're talking about, is it went down 700, 750, whatever it went down, that to try and ever get that back, how would we do that? And that's why,
That's the
instead of
concern.
funding it to the pension, which is nicely funded right now, we fund it to OPEB, so that keep the expenditure line, so it is not dropping as dramatically. It would be great to have kept it flat, but that doesn't seem to be feasible.
Okay,
So we have levers to pull. How to get there, I don't know. So now quickly, let's go to Brian's email, because I think half of those, that's it. So let's go down to other increases, just so I can go through them real fast. The IT part of that was the website, that big
I
number.
think we're okay on IT, is anybody not?
No,
we're
I'm just
okay.
trying to answer your questions.
It was just
Well, I just wanna make sure, that's what said already
Right.
good, I think that one's okay, right?
It was
Yes.
just the code red that was.
Finance was
Yes.
moving the position into Marcia's from another department, net zero.
You guys
There's
are
one
okay?
department
I'm
went
okay.
down.
Correct.
I assume
Yes.
okay. I
So,
assume
Registrar of Voters, she came in and gave us a presentation on the hours it's taking. We took out 15 hours, or about $8,000 we took out, which gives, we could still decide to move that from 12 hours a week down to 10, grab a little bit and meet her somewhere in the middle, meet her at 9. Discussion point. Public Works and Sand, Ralph came and said that's just, what that was, the increase was the salt, right?
Yeah, but
So,
why, I didn't understand that, why is it still going up by so much?
Apparently it's in short supply, and it's just a price increase. It's not a change in
the usage, it's the material cost.
Salt's gone up a lot.
And I guess he said he was able to, one of the things that.
I'm sorry, can you just vet that, that's a, that
Okay.
percent increase sounds really wild for the salt, that's all.
I think in the past, he was able to, what I was saying, about to say was, in the past, I just had to get, what happened, he did put, he like does a mixture, I think, of like a water and salt, so in the prior years, like he was able to, I think he like gets more longevity with our salt because of exactly what they
He's
do.
using less than.
And
he
they
used
use
to,
less than
actually.
normal,
Yeah.
but I think we've been used to that less than normal, and then there was this huge increase with everything. That was the way I understood it, just that salt went up,
All right, this-
where in the
this-
prior years
I
it
don't know what
hadn't.
the
But-
absolute is, but
Right.
it seems like it's a hell of an increase.
The regional animal control we're roped into, if other towns do it,
Correct.
we have to do
Can't
it.
say
We
no.
can't say no unless we have our own.
Okay,
Recycling refuse is chipping trees because we don't have Grace Bridge as an available free option anymore.
Yes.
We used to deliver all of our stuff to Grays Bridge and they'd recycle it and sell it as mulch.
And they sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
So
now,
that's
we have to
trees.
pay someone to take it instead of us giving it
And we
away
have
for
to do the
free.
trees.
And I thought, could we use it for Parks and Rec and not pay for mulch? But apparently, one, it's ugly color, and two, it's got poison ivy.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
not a
poison ivy
clean
in
chip,
it.
it's
Yeah.
not a clean mulch. no.
okay.
I did, what's the human, oh, the
Human
human services
services.
is that person that both the
Yeah,
police
that's
and
the
everybody
one.
came
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I'm
so
saying,
those,
yeah.
I think, everything but the salt and that 7 questions you understood,
You
you
guys
got
already
an
had
answer
that.
for.
Correct,
The salt,
yeah.
you're right, we
Yeah,
can go
that, I
back.
knew I wasn't there for that, that's why.
Right.
I deferred.
So
Okay.
down to your judgment areas, medical benefits, we now have a harder number, it's 11%, so there's no assumption, that comes mute. We talked
Talked
about
about
pension
that.
and
Yeah.
thing, you're gonna look at that.
We talked
We
about
talked
that.
about
Yeah.
sped funding,
We
we
talked
talked
about
about
that.
receipts of the
Yeah.
MB. Electric, I sent you the town's school side, but I did send it to you, it was in a linked
You
document.
think it looks okay, or?
She's vetted it pretty hard, I mean, I can't argue her numbers.
It just
this
looked
year.
like it was a little weird between what the
It
town
was.
and the Board of Ed were assuming, like different assumptions.
No, but she has a whole, she really did her homework, and she
But
thought.
is the Board of Ed side good? I mean, the town side good?
So she does a much more thorough job on hers, I have to say, that, because she's got 3 or 4 accounts and we've got 60 accounts. So ours are, in trying to do the math with, how many kilowatts and then, the percent that the delivery's been, we're both assuming that this bump is supposed to, they told us it would end, April 30th, and we had to assume that it really would. So we've calculated it two ways and come up to about the same. We took the kilowatt hours. In some accounts, the delivery is 50%, some accounts it's 5%, and we took the actual from 2024 before the bump and tried to, prorate it and calculate it that way. And we also took the last year increase because we don't have the same fixed rates we used to. We have a new fixed rate. So doing it both ways, we come up to about the same that on our side for two different methods. But hers is very refined and every month putting in the number of kilowatt hours and
We were really precise last year, we missed about 150K, because they changed the assumption, it's not as good as the assumptions. Okay.
Correct.
I think though she's,
But she's got
assessed
it down,
that,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying, I'm
We spent a lot of time
confident.
last year.
Yeah,
doing that,
I think, it got vetted out, and I
Yeah.
think we're at a point where we're
Okay.
within reason. Interest earnings, Marcia does a whole schedule on the interest earning
and I
assumption.
had sent you that schedule, but I can pull it up here for all of us to see that,
This is what Dan thinks we're maybe a little heavy, right? You said you called
what-
Dan, you thought we were a little heavy on
Yeah.
this?
well, he had done it budget to budget, but when we pulled up the graph that shows it actual to budget, that which seemed to make us all feel a little better, made me feel better anyway. Here's the budget of 1.6 and here's the actual. So yes, we
It
did
is
go
less, that's
up.
what Dan said.
We did go up budget to budget, but not actual to budget.
So is the delta between 2025 and 2026 driven by principal or
Less
interest?
money. We're investing less money, we don't have,
The school money
Yeah, we had the
paid it
school
off.
bonding.
No, for
city.
this year, for not for this year to next year, it's less money still?
yes, let's see, we're starting with.
Because I thought you were gonna say it was gonna be interest, because interest rates probably will go down.
So we do think it's going down, so yes, the interest rates are going down. That right now, it's been down, but we're down to 4.5 something. And we were up over 5 at the beginning of the year. And looking at it, we're starting next year at 4.25, is our assumption that,
So that's your earnings that you're calculating down below based on the money in the bank. on the
That's
second
correct.
line.
So you're saying we're gonna go from 4.25 down to 3?
4.25 down to 3, yes. And every day it's a little different. That are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? Or are we going to go in a
And this
recession?
year,
So that's
We were
scheduled interest
expecting
rate
it to
down
be-
with the current, what the bank account was forecasted at, Brian, so it's, unless you wanna change the percentage numbers.
I'm just looking at it.
No, I know, but I'm saying that's the driver right now, is what you think the interest rate's gonna go to. Cause the
Yeah, 'cause I
bank,
think the last couple of years, the $200,000 revenue number got solved here, like,
Yes.
in a
Yes.
heartbeat, right?
in a heartbeat, yes.
And
There's not
one of the cool
$200,000 there,
things
there might
is,
be a little bit of room there, but there's not $200,000
No.
there.
That's
here's
why
our
we-
general fund cash flow, pretty consistent.
Yeah, right, holy.
I stopped doing it year over year because, yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
And so then we take up here's the general fund, the cash flow, based on the total budget of 90 million and those percentages down below. Bonded capital, that if we were to bond it in December, and actually I should probably take that out because we're
Yeah.
probably not gonna bond this year.
There's a lot to-
That,
So that'll lower the number then.
Yep, that'll lower the money, the number. School construction that is done. Water assessment is, the money comes in October, and this is just when the debt service is paid. ARPA's done, and then cash capital just being paid, and the transfer coming in at the end of the year. So if I took this out,
It's gonna be like $8,000 less.
If I could only see that.
1551, is that?
So,
yeah,
so
155.1.
1521.
198.
Is
so-
that what's good too? Or
1521.
She's doing the other one.
So, yep, so we could take we maybe take 75,000
I
out
said
of
80,
that.
that's pretty close.
But,
I can do that in my head.
out of the interest income.
Out of the
There's a
interest
risk.
income, assuming
Yeah.
that all of this other stuff is gonna happen and the percentages are gonna happen, that, but, yeah.
All right, so let's go back to his list quick, 'cause then we can wrap it up and be done
Let's see, where's his list?
was in an email. So appropriate level of contingency we talked about, right? So that's a final discussion, so let's go back up to the top items.
So those were,
Pardon me?
yeah, all the way to the very top.
Yeah, so we didn't talk about any of those.
Well, CNR, we're close on that.
Yeah. Yep.
So the EMS also 8.82%, right? 80,000,
Right, that's,
yeah.
So that one, last year, when we were doing their revenue, there was 119,000 something. When we were doing their payroll, that I said I couldn't understand, I thought that was double accounted for. And so we took that out of their payroll.
Oh, that's the
So it automatically is gonna go up by 120.
one.
Because this year, when we didn't have any actual numbers. So 2024, they did their estimate the way they do their estimate. I did the estimate for payroll saying, here's 2024's hours by level, by person. Here's 2026 rates by person. And I multiply it out, and we came within $5,000 of theirs. But so 120 of that big increase is just the money we took out last year, because they couldn't see where it was coming in. And then the non-payroll costs, expenses went down.
yes. Hey, did you all go through the labors,
We did, yeah.
There isn't anything much.
There isn't anything you can do.
Oh, gosh.
No, so I mean, we got a few levers to pull.
Yeah, still, the police, the math isn't working in
so-
my head yet.
So,
So we gotta go through that a little bit.
So my meeting, the UTM is 17,000, of which 6,000 is recurring every 2 to 3 years, 9,000 is one time. The kinetic energy weapons is 5,000 to 6,000, of which again, the launchers and the target systems 3,500 one time, and the supplies are 2,500. That will be annually. Every year we would need to do that. And
So you have about 10K of one-time cost only right now.
That's
Is that
right,
right
yeah.
around there, if I got the number right?
yes, 3,500
Yeah.
and 9K, yeah, so 12,500 is
There's
one time.
one-timers.
One time, out of the 30-some thousand that we saw.
Okay, so they had a 20,000 increase with some one-timers.
Yeah, and the
Does the
rest of
one-time
it,
get carried over, or is it
the rest-
gone next year? They don't need it next year.
it's one-time spend,
Okay.
but the rest of it will come back, and the 2,500 is every year. The 6,000 is every 2 to 3 years. And I think every department just needs what they need, and it's all right, I think at the end of the day, the numbers is what we have to figure out, right? How do we get to the numbers? And
We're
that's
gonna go through it. I mean, tomorrow night, who do we have tomorrow?
Just deliberations.
So tomorrow we come in, we punch the numbers, we make it right. So we'll go to the numbers that we've all come up with, we put in, and then we go through each department again, right? We've gone through, some of the departments are no-brainers.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Right?
we should just
But
go through the departments.
how do you while they seem no-brainers today, while it seems like this is what's happening, but how do you predict your next year? So if you have a department that goes up 5%, 9%, 6% every year for the last 3 years, I'd be expecting it to go up another 5% next year.
Yes. My no-brainers are the small accounts with $1,500 in it. Those are what I mean. When I say no-brainer, when we're going through the budgets, we're
It's
gonna
like
go
the one
through
that
the
was
main
$500.
budgets. But
Okay.
there's gonna be 6 departments that are no-brainers that we just go
Yeah.
through and
What
knock
was
it off.
like?
That's
So
it,
we'll spend
yes.
time on, like, the first selectman budget, there's not a lot in it, so we go through that. Then we get to the police,
Yeah.
we'll go through it, we'll vet it out.
Okay,
We'll
take
get the-
more time.
When we get to those departments like you're talking about, we're gonna spend the time, but some of them that we turn green, there's 1,500, the conservation went up $100, I mean.
Right. If
No,
you-
these are no furnace.
If
yeah.
you take out,
Yeah.
like, this labor, which is going up 2.5%, and you can say that's fine, and you take out the small dollars, you're gonna get my list of 14, you know what I mean? That's,
Right.
I did 10,000 clip level, that's all, there aren't a lot of lines.
No,
No, we're in agreement, but it's gonna fine tune them and pull levers, we
Yeah,
talked
absolutely.
about that, so tomorrow night, we're gonna fine tune
Yeah,
and
yeah.
pull levers.
We should be able to.
and hopefully we'll have the answer on the
All
camera
right.
system and a couple of
So,
other things.
just to note, the first two is just comparison between towns, but, these are, the rest of it is basically things that I just saw and I liked and I just thought I'd print them. So, there's, you know, Farmington does this projected, which I was talking about, they project the next 2 years and say, okay, what is the 2025, 2026 looking like, what is the 26, 27 looking like? The inventory that you're already working on.
Yeah, we have one.
Yeah, you've got that already going, right? So that's, yeah.
Ours is better.
And then this, I thought was very interesting.
Which one?
The last one, the capital improvement plan.
From Newtown? Newtown has a good budget, don't they?
I know.
Monroe has another
Yes,
good
yes.
one, go to
You
Monroe.
know, do you know they only spent 400,000 on their EMS? How is that?
They have different grants and stuff too, they get, like, if you look, you know what's really, really bizarre, is if you look at the money the schools get. Bethel gets like 7 million, New Fairfield gets like, I don't know, it's sick numbers, I mean, I don't know the numbers offhand, but 5 times what we get, all the area
We have all
towns.
the lakefront property, like
We-
I think that's throws it off a lot. I mean, how many, if you look
I'm
at the
just-
real estate,
But
how
they're
many
doing
$2 million
grants.
homes are on the
Yeah.
market? And those others, I mean,
Yeah.
Fairfield has that.
Well, the-
But I'm just saying, it's
the
very weird on
budget
how
is,
they do it.
Yeah.
But
Right.
are you doing
Budget
grants or
is-
you doing something else?
No, I'm talking about
No,
other
it's
towns
just
and how
they-
they deal with the budgets in a different way. They get different grants for different
Right,
things.
grants, right.
Newtown also self-funds their insurance, their health insurance. So their health insurance
Which
is
can be a good
different.
thing and a bad thing.
So years past, Brian, they sort of got by with very little increases.
Right.
But this year, they got hit with some big cases. They had to lay off 25 teachers to cover it.
Right,
in
no, I don't
Newtown.
think that's right. But I mean, it kind of gets to the point of ownership a little bit.
That's
I mean,
exactly.
why is our Board of Ed not giving any grants?
NASCOLO.
Because they don't control the money that the grants would go against.
The construction grants, they do get grants, but not the construct, the other grants,
Why don't they get
Right.
construction grants?
well, that's a philosophy you have to take up with them.
No, it's not. It's because they don't control the capital, so why would they waste time on that?
Maybe.
Why have I asked for 2 years about special education ideas on what to do different? Because we cover that if there isn't. Why would you spend time on that? That's not their problem.
Well, we're part of transitioning, it is their problem, it's all of our problem, but we're transitioning, we're gonna figure it out.
Right, because of this, but we're gonna lose them, they're gonna put contingency, and we're gonna gain from them feeling more ownership of some of the issues.
Yes, it's
It's
gonna be a
balance.
learning process though, Brian, it's something, and
It's
you
not
two,
gonna happen overnight.
and you two are gonna be here for 2 more years. So I
Yeah.
mean, like, it's a learning process, you're gonna carry the torch on, so you're gonna have the legacy of understanding where we started from and where we get to, so I mean, yeah, it's not gonna be easy, I agree, I said that last meeting, I don't have an answer. And Eileen and I sat on these things now 8 years, I've been, and you've been here 6, 7, and you've been here a long
6.
time. So it's a feel, and it's just gonna have to, we're gonna have to get back to the point where, to say it bluntly, they're struggling as a Board of Ed. So they are struggling, I mean, in the public, they're struggling. We gotta figure out where we both get on the same ground together, and we get together again like we were. And we figure it out. Now, granted, ownership, they want ownership, we gotta figure out that fine line of not putting fat back in the budget, the fine line of trust again, of how we gain that, and your numbers are good. Marcia always has stated that Casey has really dug in and has been very diligent on the numbers. She inherited a softer system from Ken. I mean, that's something we all know, that's not like talking out of school. So she's refining, so we gotta put faith in Casey that she's gonna control the numbers. We gotta put faith that now that there's a new superintendent, that's gonna be along the same lines of, fiscal responsibility maybe, and it's gonna be a process. And I think both sides are right on this. We gotta find that middle of how to do the support and figure it out. So, on that note, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Like everybody's seconding.